Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is the Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing. Today's May 12th at 8 p.m. We're in room 119 at Town Hall, and we're also conducting this meeting via GoToMeeting as per the executive order that's still in place, number 71 or something.
7B or 7I?
7B or 7I. We have a quorum tonight. Commissioners present. We have Kerry Gately, George Riley, Larry Warble, and Jennifer Leahy will be meeting with us shortly. On our agenda tonight, we have a site plan application number.
This conference will now be recorded.
On our agenda tonight, we have a site plan application number 284B, special permit, landfilling, excavating, and regrading application. And then number 477, Town of Darien, Oxford School, 395 Mansfield Avenue. Proposal to demolish the existing school and construct a new school with associated parking, landscaping, and stormwater management on the same property, and to perform related site development activities. The subject property is located on the west side of Mansfield Avenue, approximately 1,350 feet north of its intersection with Middlesex Road, as shown on Assessor's Map number 2 as lot number 8 in the R2 zone, residential zone, and the MU multiple municipal use overlay zone.
Ms. Leahy just joined the meeting.
Ms. Leahy just entered the meeting, I'm told. Jennifer, you here? Yep, there she is. So Jennifer's in the meeting at 8:10. Jim Rand, you want to say something in advance as Mr. Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, as much as my wife's resident abuts the applicant's property, I think the prudent thing for me to do is to recuse myself.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome to stay and watch or sit with your wife and watch. You can either watch it on HIS or you can watch it on TV 79. It's up to you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. So this is a new school that's going to be built, or is proposed to be built at the location of an existing school. The plan has been on the docket for the town of Darien for 5 years, I think, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what the capital budget.
Something like that. There's a lot of people working on it tonight. We're going to have a presentation, I think, from the architect. I think we have members of the building committee for the building here. I think we also have the principal of the school at our meeting tonight, who might speak later in the evening. But Jeremy, why don't you fill us in with what we're going to do tonight?
Sure, we're going to cover a variety of topics this evening, and we've set aside next week, May 19th, for additional topics that we don't get answered tonight. A lot of tonight we're going to try to cover grading, landscaping, traffic, parking, and we'll touch a little bit at the end of the night about stormwater and drainage, but Benish, who's the stormwater designer, is meeting with the peer reviewer, Craig Flaherty from Redness and Mead, later this week to talk about changes to the design, which will be presented next week, May 19th. So we'll try to get through a number of other issues tonight. Just for the record, the town of Darien has hired 2 peer review experts on this matter, outside folks who have reviewed the plans and designs. One is Michael Galante from Hardesty in Hanover. He'll be speaking tonight on traffic and parking. And as I mentioned, Craig Flaherty from Redness and Mead will be reviewing, and is in the process of reviewing, the stormwater and drainage, which we won't get to a lot tonight, but we'll spend some time next week. We've asked the applicants to put together PowerPoint presentations, which you'll see on the screen, and present each aspect of the design, and then we'll have a little Q&A with the commission members and allow the applicant to go to the next topic, but also take some comments from the public tonight. We expect, as I said, that the hearing will be open to next week, giving the public more time to comment on the application via letter or email. I think that covers it. We'll talk about tonight the various sections of the regulations, As Mr. Olvani referenced in the legal notice, it's a site plan under section 1020, a special permit application under section 1000, land filling and regrading under section 850, and it's, the property is in the MU zone, and that is section 420 of the zoning regulations. So I have nothing further, so Steve, I think we'll turn it over to the applicant or the chairman of the building committee.
One question first, did we get any letters or anything from anybody in the public at this point?
At this point, commission members, in your packets, there are no letters from the public. There are no letters received from the general public on the town website, which reflects everything in the record.
Slash emails.
Slash emails or letters from the public. About,
Can I ask a question about that?
Hold on one second.
hold on, earlier this evening, about an hour ago, I did get one letter from a neighboring property owner, which we will put on the town website and get that out to commission members. That is a comment on the specifics of this application. Dealt with drainage, so we'll get that out to you later this week.
Karen, question?
I've heard anecdotally that there have been letters from the public, and so if they don't direct them directly to us, but you know they direct them to the Oxford Building Committee or to the Board of Ed or to the Board of Selectmen, because they don't know who's specifically in like the different layers of government and whose responsibility and who has jurisdiction over what, will those get put in the proper way to the right, boards and commissions and bodies, as is appropriate?
If they don't come directly to the P&Z, we as a P&Z don't put them in the file. If the person that it gets directed to, which is the building committee or the architect or the first selectman's office, it's their option to put it in this file if they so choose. If the person that wrote the letter is watching tonight or is seeing tonight or gets it from other way, they can resubmit the letter directly to us. But the building committee and the architect and the selectmen did not submit it to my knowledge at this point. Or like they've not at all.
No, the only letter from the public we received is the one I just got about an hour ago.
And Board of Ed, they're not required to.
I'm not saying they're required to, but I think, I don't think we should put the onus on, members, taxpayers who may not understand and fully have a grasp on jurisdiction and whose responsibility and who answers what question, who deals with what. When there's, in a matter like this, where there's so many layers of, town government and committees involved. And I just want to make sure that, the right people are answering the public's questions and issues that they may be raising. That's why I'm raising.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Steve.
So with that said, I would like to turn it over to, I think the applicant is Amy Samuelson from Slam Architects. She's a project manager. If I'm correct, Amy Samuelson, please take over. Hold on.
Thank
You're
you.
speaking.
Am I allowed to share my screen?
Of course you
I don't
can.
have the option.
Good. Amy, for the record,
We'll make you the presenter now.
Amy, for the record, and for any future speakers, if you could please state your name, your firm, and what affiliation you have with the project, that would be great. Take it away, Amy.
Okay, just navigating to the right program here to share. 1 second.
Bingo.
Oh. Okay.
That's the
There we go, right there, she just had it, right there, yep,
Yep, bingo. Perfect.
right there, good.
Okay,
Maybe
it's
we're looking at-
blinking on my screen for some reason. Can you see it?
That's the same first page that we have
I think it means maybe something's
Okay.
on the keyboard when it does that.
on my keyboard.
Let's see, I'm not navigating this correctly because I can't find the screen. Okay.
We have patience.
Well, I want to thank you very much for allowing the presentation tonight. Again, my name is Amy Samuelson. I'm the project manager for the architecture firm, the SLAM Collaborative, or SLAM. And we have with us tonight who's members of my team and also members of the of the civil engineer and of the traffic engineering firms. So first to speak will be Kemp Morhart from my firm. Kemp is the principal in charge of the project, and he's also an architect, and he'll be giving a quick overview of the location of the project, and then we'll move on to our landscape architect, also from SLAM, Jessica Petro, and Jessica will lead us in the discussion of landscaping and grading, and then also site traffic, site circulation. And we have with us Craig Yanis from Ty and Bond, the traffic engineer, and then Will Walter from Benesh Engineering, civil engineer. You met Will and I at a preview of this project where we shared just the existing site plan and the new site plan. So now we look forward to sharing with you all of the details that we've worked on and designed since that time.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
Let me see. Are you on the right screen still? No.
Not yet.
Okay, I think maybe it'll be better if I just share my entire screen. So I'm going to change what I'm sharing. I tried sharing the program and that didn't work.
I appreciate everyone's effort. This is all new to us. This coronavirus is going to end soon.
We're all going to be experts by the time it ends.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I need to move this. Sorry, I don't usually use GoToMeeting, so that's part of the issue, I think.
Your PowerPoint
Okay.
there is perfect right now.
There we go. So now I'll have Kemp take it away.
All right, thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Kemp Morhart. I'm an architect with the SLAM Collaborative Architects in Glastonbury. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon and present to you the project for the new Oxbridge Elementary School. As you previewed during the introduction, the site is at 395 Mansfield Avenue. The dashed line here, the heavy dashed line is Route 124, which is Mansfield Avenue, and it is a rear site behind some existing residences. As was discussed in the preview, it is in an R2 zone, but it also has an MU overlay zone associated with it, which gives us a few options for how we handle setbacks and some other things. And Jessica will talk about that in more detail later in the presentation. You can advance the slide. This is a graphic of the existing site plan that shows the existing school in white. The original school was built in approximately 1966 era, which encompassed the first two wings, the one that's furthest to the west, the larger wing with the two courtyards within it, and then the wing immediately to the east of that. And then the final addition was done in approximately 95, where that final wing of about 25,000 square feet or so was built. 15,000 square feet was built in 1995. The site is tiered because there's quite a bit of elevation change across the site. You'll note the elevation approximately 247 feet in elevation at Mansfield Avenue entry. And then as you traverse west on the site, the elevation drops off pretty substantially, approximately 60 feet of elevation change to the low point on the site of about 185 in the back corner where there are some
small wetlands. The site is terraced in the sense that each major element on the site, starting with the parking lot on the far east side, each of those elements is on its own plateau, if you will, and it steps down the site. So each of those narrow connector pieces between the buildings are actually ramp corridors that ramp between those major elements. And finally, on the far west edge, you'll see some small footprints, which are some existing portables that have been there for several years that are part of the education space today. And finally, on the southern edge, in kind of the heel of the site, if you will, is an open space with a playground to the far east, actually 2 playgrounds, and just an open play field. Can you advance the slide? Oh, one other thing I want to mention is there is an open space parcel to the immediate south on the western corner, which is deeded open space. The proposed site plan incorporates a new 109,000 square foot building, approximately 80,000 feet, maybe a little bit less than that in footprint. We are locating the new building on the existing open space to the south. We're also working with topography with the site to place a single-story wing of the building for the early learning program, ELP, on that eastern edge. And then utilizing the natural gradient across the site in this area, stepping the building down and having a 2-story wing in an L-shaped configuration for the K-5 classroom wing, with the administration up at the main level of the ELP as well as the upper level of the K-5 wing. And then to the west, there's a leg of the building which we call the assembly wing, which will house the media center, the gymnasium, cafeteria, and some music spaces. And that is stepping down on the site by 6 feet from the main entrance elevation. And that is being done in order to utilize the existing topography on the site to our advantage. To the north of that is a large parking area and bus loop. And immediately east of the bus loop is what we call the upper parking lot, which houses the parent drop-off zone as well as parking for the ELP wing. A few things to note about the design of this site plan is that the intent was to be able to create a decision point as soon as possible among entering the site for parents and vehicular cars to come off out of the path of buses and allow buses to move deeper into the site and have their own area for bus turnaround, bus loop, and loading and unloading for the students before they proceed out. Immediately west of the assembly wing, there's a service yard which permits deliveries and also handles the refuse coming out of the building. And then to the far west, we have a bit of a slope you can see where we have a network of sloped walks. These are not ramps by definition of the code, but they are sloped walks at maximum 5%. To get down to the lower level where we have a K-5 playground and then some open play space in the northwest corner of the site. One thing I didn't mention was the ELP playground is immediately adjacent to the ELP wing up on the east side of the site. Okay, then you can advance the slide, Amy. I'm going to quickly go through some rendering images. I think it's beneficial for everybody to be able to see the three-dimensional renderings. We won't spend too much time on this, but this is a rendering of the view of the building from the decision point I mentioned on the site plan. So when you come down that first entry drive off of Mansfield Avenue, you take a quick peek to the left, and you are looking at the main entrance to the building and the area where you would, if you were a parent dropping off your student, you would turn to the left into the parent drop-off. You can advance one more. Oh, actually, before you advance, Amy, one thing to note is that the assembly wing on the right-hand side of this image, you can tell that the tall single-story masses of the assembly wing are less prominent because they were pushed down in the site by 6 feet. So that was done intentionally to help minimize the impact of those tall single-story spaces. This is another view from the parent drop-off loop, looking at the front main entrance. I will say that these images and our presentation to the Architectural Review Board was completed a couple of weeks ago, where we received a favorable recommendation for these images. But you can see that the primary material palette is red brick. We do have gray brick mixed in some of the images you'll see, as well as metal panel and some glass elements. You could advance. This is a view from the bus loop, from the entrance from the parking lot within the bus loop, looking at the secondary entrance into the lower assembly area of the building. This is where the students would ingress and egress for loading and unloading the buses, as well as this serving as a secondary entrance for community events after hours for use of the gym, cafeteria, and other large assembly spaces within the building. Advance. Just a different view of the bus loop, showing an extended bus loop canopy, and just how the bus loop works. There is a park aisle for the buses as well as a drive-by aisle for buses to move in and out as they load and unload. Advance. As we move around to the west side of the building, this is outside of the cafeteria. That large glass facade is the cafeteria space behind. We also have an exit from the corridor, which is that small canopy and blue column. And that main circulation path comes down that sidewalk immediately to your left in the image and continues down to the K-5 playground. Advance. A view from the southeast corner of the site. This view illustrates how the building is nestled into the existing topography of the site. The portion of the building to the right in this photo is the early learning program single-story element, and then as the grade transitions down around to the K-5 portion of the wing of the building, you can see it diverges into a two-story element as we go around the southern and southwestern corner of the site. Advance. Just another view of the early learning program wing. The design was intentional to create a rhythm to try and break up the scale of this long single-story building to help address the scale of the residents immediately adjacent to it to the east. And you can also see the ELP playground there in the foreground. One of the main features of the school is the interior courtyard, which has been developed to be a curriculum space as part of the school program. It does take advantage of the one full-story building grade change from the upper ELP single-story building that's in the far view of this image. And then we have developed a kind of a amphitheater type space that helps transition from that upper level down to the main level or the lower level of the courtyard, and creating an outdoor classroom and outdoor seating steps there to enable multiple classes to come outside into the courtyard and have an outdoor classroom environment. Advance. Just another view of the courtyard from the upper level, just outside of the main entrance lobby. As you come through the main entrance lobby, you can emerge back out into the courtyard, and this would be the view, and you can get a better sense of the the full-story elevation change from upper to lower, from left to right on the page. And we could just advance through the next one, and that's just looking back at that entrance lobby from where we were. As far as thank you. As far as building height, we are within the height allowance for this site, R2 and MU. We are at a 31-foot 31-foot 3-inch building height from an average grade plane that has been established around the building. The main floor level is at 224, with the assembly level at 218, which is 6 feet lower, and our lowest level at 210. So we have a 14-foot floor-to-floor elevation change from the main entrance level to the lower level. Advance. The last slide I'm going to present before I transfer over to Jessica is the site lighting photometric plan. We've developed this photometric plan based on the lighting layout for the school site plan, and you'll note that there is no light trespass onto neighboring parcels. All the fixtures are full cutoff fixtures, and we can answer more specific questions if you have them as we move forward. So at this time, I'd like to transfer to Jessica Petro, our landscape architect, and she's going to run through some more details with regard to the plan and zoning.
Okay, this is Steve Ovani. I'm going to interrupt for a second. Before we move on to Jessica, I'd like to go through some questions from the commissioners that they may have on this portion of your presentation. I just wanted to do a couple of threshold questions myself, and then pass it off to my fellow commissioners. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but we read all the plans, and there's a bunch of different items inside there. There's going to be 24 classrooms of regular students, I would say, which is K through 5. I want to confirm that. We have, I think, 428 students for those 24 classrooms. Are we on the same page, Ken?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Then relative to the ELP classrooms, I think we have 9 ELP classrooms.
Correct.
There's a little bit of conflicting stuff, and we can get into that when you want to. It's either going to be 135 kids for those ELPs, or it's going to be 150 kids for the ELPs. The document said 2 different numbers, so I think the principal of the school is going to speak later, so we can confirm that.
Right. I can offer some information on that. The
Please do.
spec requires 15 students per classroom, and so we're currently using the 135 number that I'm aware of, unless Luke has additional information.
Yeah,
Luke Forshaw, Principal Oxford, you're correct. It's 135, 15 tapped.
okay, because it's in the cover letter, which came from the SLAM Architects to the application. It talks about 135. I think in the traffic reports and the parking reports it says 150. But as long as we have the right number, it doesn't take a rocket science to take 135 and divide it by 15, and divided by 9, you get 15. So that's what I did. With regards to the bus loop, I counted on the plans that the bus loop can fit 9 buses. Is that probably right? That's on one of your initial slides?
We do have more information that Jessica will be able to present on that. We have a whole site circulation presentation prepared.
Fantastic. Okay, then we'll keep moving on.
Sure.
With regards to to the bus loop, you talked about a sloping walkway, of 5% in the back. Does the bus loop and does that sidewalk, does that also slope down too?
Part of your question was jumbled. I couldn't understand you.
That right there, you got it. You had the exact slide. My question was, and if you go to the one that has, does the bus loop sidewalk, does that slope down from east to west?
It does,
Okay.
but no more than 5%. The entire site meets the ADA grading requirements.
Okay, perfect.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't understand kind of the answer of the question.
The question was, does that sidewalk slope from east to west? If you're looking at the image that's on the screen,
I mean, it does.
right, it slopes at 5% from where the word administration is down to where the cafeteria is. Okay,
What was the answer?
yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
It slopes down about 5%.
And he said something about ADA compliance. I'd like to hear that more clearly. Okay.
Go ahead,
The
Ken.
full site is ADA compliant with regard to slopes of walks. And again, Jessica can add more detail to that.
When
She
you hear
can
the
speak
full
to the grid.
site ADA, I'm sorry. When I hear things like the full site and like there's qualifiers, so specifically though, what Steve was asking about that sidewalk where the buses are, is that ADA compliant?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay. With regards to height elevation, I just want to make sure I have a full understanding. I understand the slight slopes down. I think we said 60 feet from east to west. The maximum height of the building, which is going to be sidewalk to the top of the building, in this exact image on the right-hand side, do we know how tall that is?
As far as the top of the parapet for the gymnasium,
Correct. To the sidewalk, correct.
I would have to refer back to the drawing because we provided the number from the average grade plane.
Which is exactly in compliance with the Darien regulations. I just want to know the maximum height from the toes to the top of the head.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I can zoom in.
We could always have that for
I
a
know that
follow-up.
the dimension is, I'm pretty certain the dimension is provided in the document package. I just don't have that number off the top of my head.
That's fine. I couldn't find it when I looked at the documents, but maybe as we go through either tonight or for the follow-up meeting, we can just make sure we nail that down.
Sure, I can offer one thing. The height of the location of the entry, the bus entry that we were looking at the previous slide, that floor level is 218. And the top of the gymnasium parapet is 31'3" above 219. So by doing the math, it seems that it would be 32 feet 3. But there is probably a very exact number that I can give you that will better serve the response.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
What else do I have? Then the other question I have on the, there's a picture that's called the Assembly Wing West Facade. Could you just tell me where that's supposed to be?
I think that was the cafeteria outside.
Yeah,
view
that's
down
it.
there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is that looks like a
If you go to-
that looks like a corner. So what up?
Right, I'll go to the site plan and then I'll point it out for you.
Okay. Yep. That's what I'm looking for.
We were standing at this approximate location of the spill out space next to the raised garden bed and looking back at the building. So that's a glass wall at the west side of the cafeteria
Okay.
and a little plaza outside of the cafeteria that you were looking at.
Now, just with that said, You said that the dumpsters are in that area and that's their service area? How does Cisco Foods get there? Is that where they're coming in?
Sure. Again, in the site circulation slides, we do have a truck turning radius study, but the service entrance would be through this gate into this service and loading area. Dumpsters are also hidden in this area. There's a slat fence between the garden and the plaza. And at the front, this is a brick wall that continues from the building across to this gate.
Okay.
So it's shielded from sight, but it's easily accessible from the bus loop.
And is this Amy speaking or is this Jessica speaking?
Yes. This is Amy speaking.
Okay. Then Amy, if you flip back to the other one, the west facade view.
Sure.
So that slatted wall, is that behind the garden, behind the picnic tables? Yep. there you
That's
go.
correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that entrance is nowhere near the service area. Okay. I think that's
Right. Well,
good.
it's near it, but it's hidden by landscaping and fence.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's
Sure.
go around to the commissioners. Jennifer Leahy, you want to go first?
I have the same question, but we'll hear more about the turning radius, about food delivery drop-off, and will we get into the weeds at all? And the bus loop?
Yes.
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 We're gonna, after, so I'm fine, I'm fine right now.
Okay, thank you. Larry Warble? Any questions at this point? You're on mute, Larry. There he is.
Thank you, Steve. You actually kicked through most of my questions, but I just want to ask one, and I'm sure someone in the meeting knows. How many buses actually service Oxford School? How many total buses are there in the whole fleet from Oxford?
I'm going to let Luke Borshaw answer that.
Larry, we have 12 for K5, and this loading area is a nice upgrade for that in general.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And the 12 for K5 services the 428 kids?
Yes,
sorry,
the
what did
buses
you-
are, those buses are designed to service the K5 population, the 428.
Perfect. Sorry, Larry.
Okay. Nope, sounds like we're ticking through everything I was wanted to raise, so I'll just be quiet and let us keep going.
George Riley?
I have in my head, the ELP playground just looked a little small to me. Is that part of the ed specs covered there?
Yeah. It is part of the ed spec, and it meets the requirements of the ed spec.
Okay, so we got 150 plus kids in that area. Okay, all right, I'll leave that to the others. I'll reserve anything else for now. Thanks, Steve.
Okay. Kara Gately? Any questions at this point?
You answered my question about the ADA compliance, which I was concerned about, and I guess I'm going to assume because of the bus entrance for the K through 5 elementary school as opposed to the war level bus loop entry for the ELP students, that we're less concerned about their compliance issue for that bus loop. Is that correct?
There's someone's got a microphone open.
Can you answer?
Can you just say it again? I didn't hear it, Kara, because someone's microphone's on. Fred, can you tell who that is?
I'm working on it. I would just say that if you're not speaking, please mute yourself.
This is Amy. I can go ahead and answer if everyone can hear me. Okay. The bus loop and the parent drop-off loop are both equally ADA accessible.
Thank you. I mean, we've spent a lot of time talking about the K through 5 school and not as much time talking about the ELP school. And so I just want to make sure that we're equally paying attention to what's going on in that wing too, because I kind of, while these are connected buildings and they have a shared administration services, they kind of are two different schools sharing a building, sharing administration services, and they have two different bus loops. I want to make sure as much time as we're spending on the K through 5 bus loop and compliance issues, we're also going to focus and make sure that we're, that there's the compliance on the other side, the ELP side. So if it's all in compliance, then I have no other questions.
Sure.
Just, I want to confirm one thing. It's Steve O'Malley again. I think there's only one bus loop, right? There's not two different bus loops for the two different schools?
ELP will be dropped off separately, won't it?
I'm going to let Luke Forshaw respond to that, but you're correct, Steve, that there's one bus loop and one parent drop-off loop. The intention is for buses and cars to not mix. Some students from the ELP get dropped off by vans, and I think that's a school administration choice, and others come by bus, and they can go to this, if you see right here, there's a sidewalk available to bring them right to the main entrance if that's how they join the school. Go ahead, Luke.
Oh yeah, thanks. Good questions, Kara. Thank you for looking out for ELP as well. Yes, so one thing that's important to understand about the ELP program is that unlike the K-5 population, all students who join ELP it doesn't necessitate that they have access to a bus. ELP is specifically designed to serve children with special education needs in the community. Those students who families agree with their school placement team agree to bus transportation, we provide that bus transportation for them. The students who are joining those ELP classmates as quote-unquote typical peers, they are not provided bus transportation, so those are parent drop-offs and pickups for the preschool. So the volume, the number of students who are taking the buses for ELP is much smaller than the K-5 population, just in terms of percentage of students who are taking the bus. And Amy's right, the location for the parent drop-off for ELP is thoughtfully placed, as is the handicap accessibility bus locations. If you look in that image, I think that's helpful, Amy. The front two buses of that loop, those two are I believe, will be designated for handicap accessibility, which gives them great proximity for K-5 students and for ELP students in accessing the building. So that was part of the design.
Luke, logistically, how will that work? I guess, so they will be coming in 20 minutes or so later than the last K-5 bus, right?
Yes.
And so hopefully all 12 or whatever will be K through 5 buses will be out of that loop, and that will permit the buses for the ELP students who are provided transportation to access those first two spots and not have to queue up.
You've got to remember that our buses start landing around 8:40 in the morning, even though we're officially opening at 9. Our buses start to arrive around 8:40, so this loop is designed to welcome students in. We'll continue to provide supervision for students in the mornings so that they can get some extra recess in. So as those 8:40 waves are coming, students are unloading, they're greeted by staff, and they're going out to play. So yes, absolutely, by the time 9:20ish, 9:30 rolls around for ELP students to arrive, that area will be clear for them.
And so those few buses for the ELP students who are provided transportation can go right up to that, where that sidewalk cut is, essentially, that can then lead them to the ELP wing.
You got it.
Okay. And I'm sorry to direct this directly to Luke, but it just, as he brought it up, and maybe we can talk about it later when traffic comes up, it struck me that, as you said, brought up the fact that the ELP students, there'll be an increased population of them, and they are not provided busing, so there will be more, and most of them arrive by parents' drop-off, and I don't think they carpool. So, but we can reserve that for later, but it struck me because I think some of us may have been assuming that ELP had similar busing, less traffic, less parent dropping off, like a K through 5 elementary school would, but we can discuss that later.
Yep.
Right. We also have the traffic engineer with us tonight, so that'll get addressed. Thanks.
Okay, you good, Karen?
And I'm just going to get us back to where we left off. There we go. Any other
Sure.
questions?
Everybody's good? Carrie, you're good? I think we got everybody. Okay. Moving on. Next person we have on our list is Jessica Petro.
That's right.
Hi. Thank you, everyone.
Welcome.
I'm the landscape architect on the project, so thank you so much for having us and all these thoughtful questions, some of which, as I move forward on these slides, we'll see some enlarged areas of the site plan, so I can touch upon a little bit of clarification, or we'll see at a little bit larger scale some of these areas. This first slide is looking at the zoning setbacks for the parcel. As noted before, we are in the NU overlay zone within an R2 residential zone. So on the left-hand side of the graphic, we've shown the breakdown of those setbacks, but then graphically depicted it on the image. So those yellow bars are showing the setbacks for each side of the parcel. So our front yard setback is actually 75 feet. The MU setback is 25 feet, but because we are a rear lot having access into the site through the drive, it's an additional 50 feet. So it's a 75-foot setback from the front yard. Our side and rear setbacks utilizing the MU overlay is 25 feet. That can be, upon review and approval of the commission, reduced down to 8. But as you can see, we've held the 25-foot setback for those areas. We've also shown the wetlands and that western lower portion of the site, and those are the flagged wetlands, but then we also include that 50-foot regulated activity area that we've shown our documents to the EPC and have gone through the approvals with that. But this graphic is just to give that overview of all of our zoning setbacks. Can you go to the next slide? So when we are talking about the site grading, as Kemp had noted, we do have a lot of grade change going from the eastern or the right-hand side of the graphic to the western left side hand of the graphic site throughout. So with siting the building and looking at those first floor elevations, we were trying to find the opportunities.
Excuse me, I live there, okay? Thank you.
We were looking for opportunities to balance the cut and fill within the site. So where the building is nestled within that southwest corner of the site where we have some displaced earthwork, we are looking at opportunities to utilize that soil for flattening out areas for the parking and maximizing parking opportunities. Where we do have grade change coming closer to the edges of our parcel, we look to have opportunities with low site walls to take up the difference in the grade change. So you can see denoted in those red lines are where we have low site walls, which will aid in preserving adjacent vegetation and property edges to not remove any of the established canopy. The graphic in the upper right is actually a concrete unit block wall, but we've chosen material that is reminiscent and it depicts like a ledge outcropping, so it has a naturalistic approach, even though it is a site wall to aid in the grade changes. Go to the next slide. I'm actually going to pass it off to Will Walters from Benesh, who's going to talk a little bit about the site drainage plan for us.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jessica. Everybody, for the record, Will Walter, professional engineer with Alfred Benesh and Company, site civil engineers. I'm going to briefly...
Well, can I interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
I just want to make sure the commissioners don't have any real questions on Jessica's presentation. So let's go around the horn real quick on that. Jennifer, the only question that I had with regards to that is if Jeremy could confirm with his interpretation of the setbacks for all of us in the room, because with regards to rear lots and setbacks and whatnot, that becomes Jeremy's bag. Jeremy, please.
Right, we spoke earlier about section 424 of the zoning regulations, which outlines the area and bulk requirements in the MU zone, which is what this property is in, is the municipal use overlay zone. And Jessica accurately reflected that you take the front yard and additional 50 feet. So in this case, because it's a rear lot, the front yard setback is 75 feet. And she's correct that section 424 requires a 25-foot setback, which under the various notes in section 424, the commission can reduce down. And as Jessica confirmed, there is no reduction being requested to go down from 25 to 8 in terms of those. So for a setback standpoint, that was accurate.
Okay, and then as a follow-up to that, the ELP playground is in that buffer zone. We don't have to worry about.
Right, because it's not
a structure.
It's not a structure.
Okay, great. That's my clarification. Let's go around the horn again to the commissioners before we get to you, Will. I'm sorry. Jennifer Leahy, any questions on Jessica's piece?
No, all good.
Okay, Larry Warble?
No, thank you, Jeremy. That was actually, you just clarified my question. And I'm just going to comment that I think some of the feedback is coming from whoever is caller 02. So who's ever caller 02, if you could go ahead and mute your phone, that'd be great.
That the phone is muted for caller 02 now.
Thanks, Fred.
Okay, great.
George Riley, questions on Jessica's piece?
I just wanted to, if you were to go forward a slide, I think one slide, or I wondered where are the site walls going to appear? Are those the red lines or the blue lines, I suspect? The site walls?
They're actually both. The red line depicts the image on the lower right-hand side, which has the number 2. And those are used for a smaller, a lower grade site wall, maybe a 30-inch site wall and below. So they're a smaller stone. The image in the upper right, 1, which is denoted in blue on the site plan, is a larger, same concrete unit block wall, but because of the height and the grade change, we used a larger fill, and then reflective of a ledge outcropping to be more naturalistic.
Good, yeah, I get it now, thank you.
Yeah.
Nothing more.
Now, Jessica, just to confirm, those walls that are higher than 40 inches, right?
Retaining walls more than 4 feet high might need a separate building permit, and they have to be engineered.
Great. So those walls, if they're going to be higher than 48 inches?
I think it's 4 feet. Yeah,
Oh,
it's 48 inches.
Okay, it's 4 feet. Just so we're on the same page, Jessica, if those walls you're talking about, which are image number 1, they have to be engineered walls with, I guess, as Jeremy quoted, may have separate building permits. Are you aware of that?
We'll check with the building official on that as you get closer to that, how he wants the permits treated, but he will be asking for engineering on those walls.
Okay, absolutely. Noted.
Thank you. That's George. Kara Gately. Any questions?
Actually, hi. Jeremy just answered my question. I was sort of concerned about walls that were over 4 feet high in an area with children. But if they're going to be engineered and that's going to, the building department will be involved, which I hadn't seen in this packet, I have no other question, but I'm happy.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, moving on. Our next speaker is you're actually a little bit out of order. It's Will Walter. Go ahead, Will. Take us away. Just give us your name and qualifications and what your portion of this is.
Sure. For the record, Will Walter, professional engineer with Alfred Benish & Company. I am the civil engineering sub-consultant to SLAM, and my responsibility is utilities, stormwater and erosion control. So a little bit about the stormwater on the site. Kemp had mentioned that the topography slopes high on the east side by Mansfield Road to low on the west side. There's about 80 feet of grade change. So the water all flows down right now from the site from the two adjacent parcels to the east, a portion from Mansfield Road, and then there's also the small subdivision to the east of Mansfield Road that also contributes flow that flows across the site. Under current conditions, the majority of the flow flows east to west and dumps out down near the wetlands in the northwestern part of the site. There's two pipes that come down there. Under current conditions, there's pipes sticking out of the slope right there. It's eroded pretty significantly, and we're going to take care of all that. So when we do stormwater management, there's really two things that we're looking at. First is hydrology, and that is meaning what is the peak flows for the design storms that are leaving the site under current conditions. And we have to make sure per the zoning regulations that we don't exceed those under proposed conditions. And so within the hydrology component, there's actually two different things that we're looking at. One is what is discharging off of our site, kind of in that northwestern area. And there's the zoning regulations for the town of Darien are very conservative. Even though we have a lot of impervious on site, they require us to look at the existing site as if it was meadow, and that's what we've done. And so we are increasing the impervious, but essentially with our model, we're going from a meadow up to what you're looking at, which is a significant amount of impervious. And to detain the peak flows for up to the 100-year storm, we need a volume of on-site retention. And as you can see from this graphic, there's really very little room for above-ground detention, which is what we prefer to do. So the only thing we could do is go underground with our detention. You can see on the left-hand side in blue, that is our underground detention. That is a series of 4-foot-high concrete modular block units, open bottom units that are sitting on stone. And what we're doing is we're taking all the flow, not just from our site, but from the adjacent sites as well, and we're running it through there, and we're detaining the peak, we're percolating some, and then we have an outlet control structure, and you can see on the top left of that underground detention system that the water comes out and dumps right up next to the wetlands, and we're providing a big concrete end wall with a riprap scour hole. So we're going to take whatever velocity is coming out of there, we're going to slow it down, and it's not going to have a negative impact and erode the wetlands like it's doing currently. But again, basically we need that large underground detention system just because we have to assume the existing conditions is all meadow. The other thing we have to do with hydrology is, per the zoning regulations, this site is part of a larger watershed, the Stony Brook watershed, and there's been issues in that watershed downstream from here. So not only do we have to look at what's coming off our site, but we have to compare how that interacts with down towards the end of the Stony Brook watershed. And we have modeling that's been done by another consultant as a part of a town-wide study that we're incorporating into our model, and we're looking at that as well. The other thing that we look at with stormwater besides hydrology is hydraulics, and what that means is we look at our pipe network that we designed. We've got catch basins, area drains, manholes, and of course we have piping, and we're running our storms through the piping just to make sure that the catch basins are spaced properly, the area drains are spaced properly, the pipes are sized properly so that we can take the amount of flow and get it off the surface and off the roof of the building and get it through those pipes down to our detention system. And so that's the other thing we're looking at. So we did the design, we did the analysis, we produced a stormwater management report. It was a pretty hefty report, about 700 pages. That was submitted as a part of the planning and zoning application. And the town hired a consulting firm, Redness and Mead, to perform a third-party engineering review of the stormwater management system. We received the comments back probably about a couple of weeks ago, week and a half, 2 weeks ago. we've gone through all their comments, we've addressed all their comments, and we actually have a conference call set up for Thursday at 3 p.m. with Redness and Mead. Mr. Ginsburg is going to be a part of that conversation, and I'm going to go through Redness and Mead's comments and what we've done to address them, the methodologies that we're using to address them, that I feel like address them, just so I can make sure that Redness and Mead is in agreement with the way we're responding to their comments. So I'm sure we'll have some back and forth, and then the plan is to, once we get their feedback, is to formalize our response, and then we're going to go from there. So at this point, I mean, we're hoping not to get too deep into the stormwater comments. The comments they provided are typical in nature for a stormwater review. I believe we have a meeting a week from today, I think we'll be prepared to go through all of those comments, or as many of the comments that the commission members would like answers on.
Okay, Jeremy, how are we going to go forward on this?
Well, as the commission members in your packets and also on the town website, you do have the report from Benish, the 500-page report. You also have a shorter summary memorandum. I think it's about 4 pages done by Benish. For the commission members, it's number 8 in your packet. We also have Craig Flaherty's letter review, which is number 9 in your packet. That also has been posted to the website. That's 5 pages long. Mr. Flaherty's here tonight. As Will has mentioned, they're going to hash through the comments back and forth. You'll likely see some revised plans on the website and in your packets for next week, and those revised plans will be gone through in more detail next week, talking not only about holding back water, but how they're dealing with water quality. And I will also pass along the neighbor's email received tonight, which had some questions about drainage. I'll pass that along to Will, so we can look at those and be ready to address those next week as well. There were 3 questions in that email I received tonight, Will.
I think that's 45 Hancock.
Yes, the property owner who is in, I'll call it the top left of the screen at 45 Hancock, who's that little stream in that top left corner is right near that property line.
No, it's below, right? That's that guy.
Right there. So I'll pass along his comments. I'll post them to the website and pass them along to the commission members. So I don't know if we want to go to the commission members or Craig for a...
Commission members, I would like to have Craig Flaherty speak first, if you guys don't mind. I don't have that Craig is here.
I agree.
I'd like
Hello.
There he is.
Craig's the guy that's going to ask the best questions on this. All right.
This is my first planning and zoning meeting in slippers.
Can you please state your name and company for the record, sir?
Sure. Craig Flaherty, a professional engineer licensed in the state of Connecticut, principal and senior engineer with Redness and Mead. We provided peer review comments. I don't have much to say right now. If there's any specific questions on my review, I'm happy to answer those. We have not yet received the response from Benish to kind of go through how they responded to our questions. So I'm looking forward to seeing that information either during our conference call on Thursday or just before. So that's really all I have to say.
The only thing I'd add to that is from the very first presentation we had from Benish and Slam, we knew this is can't even say it, very sophisticated drainage system. So I'm glad you're on the case, and I understand that Redness and Mead and Benish has been working on this together for a while. I don't really have any questions at this point until you guys hash it out. Once you guys come to your conclusions, I'll be able to speak better. So I'd like to just go around to the commission and see if anybody has any questions at this point. Let's start at the other end of the list this time. Carrie Gately, you want to go first?
I guess my question, obviously it's not for the 2 gentlemen who are the experts, because, one has done a full, study and analysis. that we have 2 pages of. And I know there's more on the website, and he cited to other modeling and other reports that were done that I wasn't aware of, so I'll have to go find those myself and figure that all out. And then another consultant, right, who, asked a lot of good questions, but those haven't been answered, so they're still in a process of doing this. So I guess my question is really more of a process question, which is, stormwater management is a very crucial issue and a very important issue, both for the town and for, I would think, all of us as commissioners. Will we have an opportunity to address this at a later time?
The answer is yes. We have our whole second meeting really to address this.
And will all these materials be made available to us? Because,
Yes.
we're given an order of speakers, it's not being stuck to. There's now documents being cited to that we weren't provided. And I just want to make sure from a process perspective that we provide, like, this document that's on the screen right now. Have we been provided with that? I don't think I've seen that.
It's in the PowerPoint that was posted.
Was it? Because one PowerPoint.
It's also, if I can answer that, this is Amy Samuelson. This is exactly the site drainage plan from the documentation. It's C101 in your hard copies. And we've removed the text and put blue over the...
101, Steve or Jeremy, what's C101? I thought we were going to do away with, like, individual labeling of documents.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what C101 is.
Thank God.
Sorry.
Anyway,
I wanted to mention that you
I can
received
see
documents.
I can see it now. I'll find it myself. But we'll have another opportunity to, like, go over this, because I really
Yes.
do. I think drainage and stormwater management is a very important issue.
Yes. No argument here. Craig Flaherty is on the case.
No, I just want to make sure that we're going to circle back to this since there's still open issues.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Thank you.
George Riley, any questions at this point?
No, sir, no, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, Larry Warble, any questions for
Yeah,
us?
no, let's just hold everything till we're really at the end. We're just not there yet.
Okay. Jennifer Leahy.
I think she's the other way.
She's the other way.
Sorry, I'm here. No, I'm okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
The only thing, as a follow-up, this is Steve O'Reilly, as a follow-up to Kara's comments, inside the packet, one of the set of plans, we got something from O&G, which shows the bulkhead that you spoke about, Will. And then there's another document, I think that came from you, that shows the riprap. If you could just make sure that those get overlaid together, so we know where they go and what they are. Because I saw those 2 pipes on my site tour, and I trust there. There's there's a lot going on there, and make sure that we get the good documentation when it does come in.
Yeah, I believe that detail is already provided on our civil plans, but I'll go back and double check that.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
I'm sorry, Steve. I have no clue what you're talking about.
In one of the big documents, it was an O&G document that shows the what do they call the thing? The stone head?
The head wall,
The head wall.
Big documents.
Right.
big
Okay.
sheet plan, one sheet. I can get the sheet.
It's right there. That's the sheet.
L201 is the site layout, and that shows the head wall.
That's from L201. This is really probably for Will. L201, which is the O&G plan. Oh, that's not that's his plan. Is that right? Yeah. Okay.
Well, this one
yep,
too.
Yep.
Maybe Jeremy or someone can just email it to me and I'll look it up.
No, I want to make sure that Will knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
Yeah,
Right, and then this one, C201,
Hold on.
shows the riprap.
it's going to be on a C sheet.
Yeah. Travis, right. L201 has the head wall, and C201 has the riprap. And then what's the O&G plan? Yeah. the O&G plan, which is SLO2, that shows the head wall standing all by itself. Okay, so if you could just make sure you mark those and make it easy on us when we review them, we know what you're talking about. Okay, Will?
Okay.
Perfect. Moving on?
Moving on.
Great. We're going to move on to the next speaker, and I trust and think it's Craig Yanis. Is that right, Amy?
Actually, Jessica Petro again.
Oh, great.
From SLAM. Are we going to do the site circulation and then Craig will show his traffic report? Yes.
That's fine. So you're going for...
The plan, I'm sorry, this is Craig Yanis. The plan was to do the opposite, to do the traffic first and then the site circulation. I
Oh,
believe.
yes.
I
Right,
think
which
we'll
is,
make more-
yeah, that's 9 and 10 on our schedule, Amy, and then 13,
Sure.
14 is Jessica.
So Craig is going to share his screen for that.
This is the different PowerPoint.
Okay. Now this is PowerPoint 2, is that right, Craig?
That's correct.
Okay, Craig, you just introduce yourself, say who you work for, and your role in this project, please, for the record.
Yep, Craig Yanis, a time bond, licensed engineer. Hang on, I've been made presenter. Hang on, let me just get this set up first and then go back to you.
Take your time. So we just threw 15 instead of 15.
Yeah, 15 would. I'll cross that off.
Okay.
Now this is, for commissioners, this is a separate PowerPoint document that we received.
Okay, so for the record, Craig Yanis, the time bond, licensed engineer, professional traffic operations engineer, and roadway safety professional. Time was contracted by the town to review the potential impact of the proposed school replacement. So I know, obviously, traffic flow and parking is a big concern for this site, and we have some positive news to share with you today. Our team's taken a detailed look at the existing operations, and we've planned improvements to the layout and the operations to ensure that the site operates appropriately under future conditions. So I'm going to discuss the roadway access and operations for the Mansfield Avenue and driveway intersection for traffic entering from the roadway. And Jessica and Principal Luke Forshaw from Oxbridge will talk about the internal site circulation and parking. So just a kind of a snapshot, the proposed improvements include, revised signal timing at the traffic signal, longer bus and parent drop-off and pickup loops, better circulation or better separation between the bus and parent drop-off loops, and then also a significant increase in parking. And so basically all these come together, and overall we found that the improvements will result in better traffic access and circulation that will accommodate the future traffic flows. I also want to mention here that the town's traffic consultant, FP Clark, Mike Monte, is here today, and Connecticut DOT have both reviewed and agreed with these analyses, so that's a positive backing from them. So just getting you oriented to the site from a traffic perspective, you have Oxbridge here, pointer, State Route 124, Mansfield Avenue, just south of Pembroke Road and Half Mile Road, in to the driveway, you have a signalized intersection opposite a private driveway. This is Mansfield Avenue, north to south. Every approach has one lane approaching the intersection, one lane leaving the intersection. The signal's in operation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And another important thing to note is that there's no turn on red allowed on all approaches during red indications. So nobody can make a turn without having a signalized green ball. Talking about the existing operations, we obviously are pretty well versed in the site. We observed the site in person during the peak periods in November 2019. We also reviewed the traffic counting videos, which we took twice, one in May and one in October 2019. So, as probably many of you know, in the morning peak period, there is some congestion, particularly on the southbound approach, where queues extended all the way up the half-mile road. For northbound direction, we observed queues of about 10 vehicles, and coming out of the driveway, we had 3 or 4 vehicles on any given cycle. During the PM dismissal, traffic congestion was moderate. There was really no significant queues entering or exiting the driveway. The traffic signal cleared the cars pretty efficiently. We also noted that the queues from the school bus and the parent pickup and drop-off operations were contained within the site. They didn't impact the operation of the signalized intersection at all in any of our observations, and we've the same from Principal Fortshaw. And the parents in the bus traffic arrival and dismissal periods peaked around 8:45 in the morning and 3:35 p.m. in the afternoon. These delays lasted approximately 15 to 20 minutes before dissipating, which is a common, condition of school traffic. So we talked about some of the sizing in earlier slides. This is just an overview. Most important to the traffic analysis is the enrollment. And so we have the enrollment numbers here. So originally we were carrying the 150 for the ELP. We mentioned the 135. I think for the sake of the traffic report, we're being conservative with the 150. We've obviously found that 150 will work, which I'll explain a little bit. So what's important were those two numbers. So you have the K through 5, which is 428 from existing 393. And also the school hours. So K through 5 runs from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and the ELP is 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday. So looking at the traffic, basically, looking at the data we collected both turning movement counts, which are peak hour 7 to 9:30 a.m. and 3 to 5 p.m. 2 to 5 p.m. And we looked at also hourly traffic volumes on Mansfield Avenue with a 2 counter. And so what we found was there was an overlapping peak of the K through 5 traffic and the Mansfield Avenue traffic from 8 to 9 in the morning and from 3 to 4 p.m. So that's what we analyzed. Those are the 2 peak hours we analyzed. The ELP arrival and dismissal don't overlap with the Mansfield Avenue peak flows, as well as the K through 5 traffic since school's already in session. So really what we were looking for was the worst case scenario, which was this overlapping Mansfield Avenue commuter peak and the K through 5. So basically the existing traffic volumes as well as the traffic increase were based upon the observed traffic volumes of the driveway as well as the enrollment. So the student population increase for the K through 5, which was the 428 versus the 393 existing. And so looking at the trip generation table, you have the traffic volumes at the top. So those were the actual observed traffic volumes for the 393 student school. So in the morning peak, we saw 290 trips. In the afternoon peak, we saw 243. So utilizing those trip rates per student, we projected out the 428 student school. So that would be 316 in the morning and 265 in the afternoon. And if you do the math, subtracting the two from each other, you get 26 additional trips in the morning and 22 in the afternoon. And again, FP Clark and Connecticut DOT have reviewed and approved these projected traffic volumes. So moving to the analysis results, this table shows the AM on the left-hand side and the PM on the right-hand side. The results are categorized in terms of level of service and queues. The level of service is a letter grade from A being the best through F being the worst, which describes the intersection operation based on the average delay per vehicle, which are shown on the right next to the letter. And also queues, which are the length that the cars stack at the intersection approaching, so that's showed on the bottom in terms of feet. So in the table we have morning, I mentioned morning on the left, afternoon on the right. So going also from left to right, you have existing conditions, background conditions, which include the existing traffic volumes plus general traffic growth percentage. And then you have the combined conditions, which includes the existing volumes, the general traffic growth, and this additional site traffic. And then you have the improved conditions, which is the final column, called optimized, which are the combined conditions with our proposed improvements. So as we mentioned with our observations, we can see that there's delays present in the morning peak hour, particularly for the southbound approach, and that they worsen as you go from the existing to the background, and then like to the combined. In the afternoon, you know, acceptably with a level surface C or better under all movements and scenarios. Part of the reason for the poor operation in the morning is that the current signal timing and settings limit the ability for the signal to operate more efficiently. So basically what it does is it sets the same time for each movement of the traffic signal cycle, regardless of the demand on each leg. So to mitigate these capacity issues in the morning, and also, you know, just make it a little better in the afternoon, we're recommending some traffic signal retiming to balance the time for each movement based on the demand. So that's the column all the way to the right, the optimized column. And that shows that with these optimizations, basically we can get results for the future that are better than the existing. And you can see the queues match the same down the bottom. And again, FP Clark and Connecticut DOT reviewed both of these results. So just in summary, from a roadway access and operations standpoint, you know, just summarizing all the bullets I talked about, you know, there are delays in the AM with the existing, particularly southbound acceptable operations in the PM. Impacts last 15 to 20 minutes, which are typical of schools. The peak hours we analyzed were the K through 5 and Mansfield Avenue, overlapping periods from 8 to 9 and 3 to 4 p.m. Trip generation increase was 26 in the morning, 22 in the afternoon. And as I discussed on the previous slide, the signal timing improves the future conditions from the existing. And with that, based on the results of our analysis, it's our professional opinion that the additional traffic generated by the proposed school with these timing improvements is not expected to have a significant impact to traffic operations on Mansfield Avenue. And so if we could take any questions now, if you like.
Where is it? Okay. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. I'm just going to go with a couple threshold questions and items, which I think is maybe cleanup in your report. We talked a little about the 135 versus the 150 of the ELP kids. You were conservative on that, so we can leave it at 150. On page, I think 6-1 in the beginning of your report, you talk about 122 parking spaces. I think that number is getting switched to 140. That shows up on 1-1 and 6-1.
That's correct. The parking was reconfigured following the finalization of this report, but that doesn't. The numbers of the enrollment didn't change, so that's what we based our traffic generation on.
You on that page, which is 1-1, you talk about 150 kids in ELP. At the end of the day, it's supposed to be 135. To me, that's fine that you went more conservative, because that's going to help you a little bit. But if you just note in there that the projected one was supposed to be 135, so people don't look at it and say, hey, they made a mistake. You follow me?
Yep.
Okay, great. With regards to the difference in chip generation morning to afternoon, where you talk about enter, exit, and I'm looking at your PowerPoint presentation, table 4. Can you just confirm for me, in the morning you have more, the total is 290 versus 243. Is that because dads like me drop off my kid in the morning and don't pick him up in the afternoon? And they take the bus home?
Yeah, generally that's what we see. The morning peak hour in almost any type of environment with the commuter and, you know, kind of school traffic is that there's a lot more condensed traffic in a shorter period of time in the morning, when in the afternoon there's after school activities, there's other things that lower that trip generation for that one peak. Especially when you're talking about a school where it's before general work days are over.
Right. I mean, I drop off my kid at school every single morning. I never pick them up after school.
Yeah, that's pretty common. So that's what we're seeing, and we're seeing, higher enters in the morning and exits in the afternoon, and the opposite for the employees as well as people coming in.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, it comes up later from Michael Galante where it talks about the letter grading. But in your report, can you just talk a little bit about the B's and D's and the E's and F's? I think that's your grading system. How could it ever be, and what do you have to do to make it an A, and why was it, or it's not an F anymore? And it comes up again in Galante's report.
So essentially, from a letter grade standpoint, obviously, yeah, A is the best. That's, very efficient traffic flow. That's pretty uncommon. A's and B's are pretty uncommon in the Northeast here. We have a lot of people. Basically, what we look at is generally what we look for an overall level of service. So the top line in this table 1 is a level of service C or better. That's when we're doing really well. And then particular approaches, obviously based on the peaks, we look for a level of service D or better. So we were able to retime the signal. And essentially what we did was we took some time from the Oxbridge driveway and the private driveway cycle or phase of the cycle in order to stack some more cars there and then reduce the time and the delay for the southbound traffic, particularly in the morning. It happens in the afternoon as well, but that was the key. The southbound movement in the morning was the key. And so we wanted to get that down to level service D, and we were able to do that. Essentially what the signal is doing is it's not allowing the detectors to work correctly. It's setting the time to a fixed number, as opposed to having somebody hit the detector and extend the phase longer, or shut off a phase if nobody's there. So we're looking to fix that with this optimization.
Now, is that the detector that's, I think it's existing today on the Oxbridge driveway, or is that in Mansfield Avenue, or is it both?
It is the detector in the driveway itself.
So you're not doing anything on Mansfield Avenue, which is a state road?
That is correct.
Okay. I'm going to hold off on anything else I have because Michael Galante is our professional. Just for the record, commissioners, Greg Yanis was hired by the Board of Education / Building Committee, and Michael Galante of FP Clark and Associates was hired by the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's a fine line difference. We're all on the same page, but that's the difference. So Michael looked over Greg Yanis' shoulder. Let's start at the top again. Jennifer Leahy, do you have any questions at this point?
Would it be helpful, or is it possible to, if you were able to do something with the signals in Mansfield, make it more efficient?
So essentially that's what we've done. So we're not doing anything physically to the intersection, but we are taking time from the driveway approach and putting it on the main line, so the Mansfield Avenue approach. So it will be longer. It will extend the green time there to improve that situation. So that's what we've done.
But not both.
Doing both generally gets you into issues of queue. So, the longer the cycle length, the more cars arrive at the intersection, and the longer they get. So you want to keep that all on balance. So that this is really an efficient timing. And hopefully with the settings changes that go along with this, I didn't want to get into too much detail. Changing some of the settings the signal has, it'll allow to do it dynamically. So if people hit the sensor, they'll extend it longer. If cars aren't there, it'll stop that phase and allow the other phases to go.
You good, Jen? Okay. Next up, Larry Warble. Any questions at this point, Larry?
Could you just, and you've gone into just you've thrown out so much on the enhancements, the optimization, I think is what you call it on the traffic. Can you just give me like a real simple before and after? What exactly are you doing to the traffic? Like, well, how is it today? What's going to change? What's going to be different? And why does that make it better? In kind of real simple language.
So this here shows the actual retiming. So the top line.
We don't have any. You're not sharing your screen with us right now, Craig.
Hold on, Craig.
He's gonna get back to one of these things. We good?
There it is.
Bingo.
Now I'm muted. Okay. So going left to right on this table, this shows the retiming. So phase one, there's a northbound advance for the left turn for Mansfield Avenue that allows basically all northbound traffic to go to kind of clear out the left turns. And then you have the second phase two, which is northbound and southbound Mansfield Avenue traffic. And phase four, as we call it, is the eastbound westbound traffic. Excuse me. So the top line is the existing phasing, so you can see the timing there. So for the AM, we're taking 15 seconds away from the Oxbridge driveway and placing it on the main line. So that'll be 6 seconds long versus the 41 that it was before. And then in the PM, we're taking 9 seconds away from that phase 4, the driveway, and adding it to Mansfield Avenue. So we're making it 50 seconds instead of the 41. And so I also want to show you the results table again. So in plain simple terms, our combined analysis here, in this box here, and in this box here, we're going from an overall level of service. So everybody at the intersection on average waits 90 seconds. And with that timing change, we're reducing that down to 31 seconds. In the afternoon, we were going from 24 seconds to 19. And then the key for this, and the reason why there was such a reduction in the delay, was we were taking a very high volume approach, which was the southbound approach, that was at 104 seconds of delay, and also at the same time we're also giving more time to the northbound traffic because they can go at the same time, and reducing those from 90 to 16, 104 to 40, and PM is a little bit more measured, 24 to 16, 24 to 18. So is that a little clearer?
Yeah, thank you. That walks it through. So then you mentioned sensors a few times. How does that? Where do I see the sensors in this data and what they do?
So it's kind of hidden in the traffic signal itself, but essentially what it does is, so north is to the right, Mansfield Avenue is left to right on your screen. This is the driveway approach. This is the stop bar. There's a detector there in the pavement, and basically it's an inductor. So when you go over with metal, it'll sense like a car there. And so what it'll do is it'll call that phase if somebody's sitting there, and there's a corresponding one on the private driveway across from there as well, since they need to be able to call a signal. And so what normally happens is that calls a signal, which that happens all the time. That happens here. But then for everybody that passes over the signal, it'll make the side street phase longer up until there's a maximum number. And so what it's doing now with the timings it's basically setting a set time by setting the settings up here, which, I can get into, but they're kind of complex. But essentially what it's doing is it's setting this so that it has to be the maximum amount of seconds. So even if nobody's coming out of the driveway, everybody else is waiting. So what we're looking to do is change that setting up here and then change the timing. So the timing better matches what we've counted and what we project. And the sensors and the settings will allow it to change based on what volume is actually there that day within the ranges that are allowed.
If I can interrupt for a second on your time, Larry, just for the record, Greg Yanis, I don't think we have that, the plan you have on your screen now, and also the plan prior in our packets.
Entitled Signal Retiming.
The signal retiming one and the signal plan. We don't have those two.
These were to respond to questions that, as we needed them, I could provide the full set.
Beautiful.
That would be great. We'll put that in the record, though. Because this signal plan, that's the thing that's in the driver. When you pull out of the school, you go over and it goes da-da-da-da. You're replacing that, right?
Yeah, so we're doing work to the driveway, which will require a replacement of the loop, but it'll operate the same way.
Okay. Are you good? I didn't mean to cut you off, Larry. Are you good?
Yeah, no, thank you. So, I'm good.
You're gonna have another crack at it because Mike Galante is going to explain all this stuff to us in layman's terms too, and we're going to do another round of questions. George Riley, any questions at this point?
Yeah, a couple quick things. Just if there's a longer green southbound on Mansfield with the ability to turn right into the driveway, does that more likely add to the queuing in the driveway? You're going to add more cars there that might stack up more likely?
So it is possible that the additional timing will allow more people to enter the site. Jessica and Luke will talk about this a little bit more, but essentially we planned this in coordination. So we're doing the retiming to make the signal operate more efficiently. We're also increasing the storage space on the site for both the parents and the buses, so that it reduces the chances of it backing up. And so we've kind of coordinated those together, and we're confident it's going to work the way we intended to.
Okay, all right, I'll look for that. And to whom did it fall to determine that there was not an ability to add a turning lane either to Mansfield or the driveway?
Can you, Michael Galante, that's you.
This is Mike Galante. I can answer that when it's my turn.
Okay, thank you.
This is Craig. I can also respond. I mean, essentially what's happening here, and you can see kind of with this plan in front of us, if you guys can see, I can still see the screen. There's limited right-of-way to really add a meaningful turn lane on Mansfield and the school driveway. Also, as I mentioned before, the school driveway doesn't allow right turns on red. So the right turn lane usually is added on the driveway so that you can make a right turn on red to kind of clear that traffic. So it would add a pretty minimal increase in capacity, and you'd still have a lot of delay for those left turning traffic because they'd still have to wait for the light. So it wouldn't add a real meaningful improvement to capacity. And essentially our results with the optimization are pretty favorable with the level of service C.
Especially here where there's very
So
site.
if you had the right turn lane, you wouldn't be able to authorize a right on red. Isn't that usually a line of sight issue, or is there more to it than that?
That is the reason, and it is a line of sight issue, and that is the reason why on this intersection there's no right turns on red allowed any approach, and also there's no flashing operation overnight. So you have to have a signal green in order to make a movement in the intersection, and that's for safety, and it's likely the reason why the signal was installed in the first place.
All right, thanks, Craig.
Carrie Gately.
No, can't hear you.
I'm done, thanks.
Thanks a lot. Carrie Gately, you're up. Any questions at this point?
She can't hear
You're
you.
muted, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Thank you, George. Carrie Gately, you're up. Any questions at this point?
Well, George answered, sort of touched on some of my questions, which was with the increased timing to allow more traffic flow both on the southbound and the northbound side of Mansfield. Would that increase queuing and issues within the very tight parking at the site? That's a no.
I'm getting a lot of feedback. I was waiting for it to play.
Yeah, that's Michael Galante's phone, I think. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, so essentially, the signal will operate the way it needs to based on the demand that's on the approaches. So if there's a lot of people coming out of the driveway, it's going to extend that phase to the maximum length, which will be similar to what the timing is right now. I think we'll, obviously look to put better bounds on what can happen. And it's kind of a coordinated effort between the roadway items and the circulation items to make sure that they work together. And the other point that I probably should have made before was that the timing can be changed whenever we want it to be changed. And so it's definitely something that we need to monitor
Hey, Kyle,
as the
can
school
you hear me
comes,
okay?
comes online, the new school comes online.
So your
the other
mic is
portion of
working
this is
good.
we're also projecting traffic based on a maximum enrollment. That won't happen, I don't believe, 2022, so.
Well, I don't agree with that thing, but like, I guess, where do we draw as like a planning board or if there is this sort of like, right, there's an inherent conflict between the build-up at the school and the allowing traffic to flow and not have too long of waiting times. So who's going to be making that call?
I think ultimately, it's up to the school operations to make sure that people. One thing I can say is that the existing signal, we observed it many times, and even with the small loops that are on the site today, none of the traffic backed up to the driveway. We're significant in that length, and so even if there's extra traffic entering the site, I believe that it will work the way it's.
I'm sorry, that wasn't clear what you said. None of the traffic backs up to where?
So in the current conditions, under our observations in both person and in the video, we did not see any cars from the site delaying it or queuing, up to the signalized intersection. So that means that the internal circulation didn't impact the signal, right? And so the existing condition is very constrained. In a couple slides.
Exiting or entrancing?
So the traffic's entering. So we're adding more time for the entering traffic, correct?
Okay.
So there's right now with the signal the way it is, there's no backup from the internal people entering, or any delays in the site that are backing up to the intersection of the driveway.
So people
Right.
getting on the site.
Well, we've observed many times. The principal Forshaw has also said that. So we have video that we could show if we feel the need.
Parent,
Also-
every day.
So we're also making improvements to the site circulation to make everything significantly longer than it is today.
Loops are bigger, so you get more
There's a
people.
pretty coordinated operation that they'll go into about how students get dropped off, how many at one time, how fast they get in and out. And so with that in combination, we think that the timing will better serve the people of Mansfield Avenue that just want to get past the school. The other thing overarching all this is the school zone, 15 to 20 minutes in the morning and the afternoon. It's a very small portion of the day. The rest of the day, the traffic operates efficiently here.
So, and I guess, can we get into that a little bit, and maybe this is better for, I don't know when we're gonna do parking, but I had a lot of questions about parking, and this sort of all seems to be interconnected. You didn't observe, though, did you observe any of the afternoon pickup times?
We were at the school both in the morning and the afternoon, and we saw the video from the traffic camera counting the cars both in the morning and the afternoon on 2 separate occasions.
And you did not observe any backing up or any queuing within the school property or on Mansfield or onto Half Mile Lane?
Well, so
I don't know.
here's what we observed. So this kind of summarizes what we saw. So we saw a queue of people from the stop bar at the signal on the southbound approach on Mansfield Avenue extended to Half Mile Road. So pretty,
Morning and afternoon.
and that's in the morning. So the morning's up here.
Yeah.
Yep, the afternoon, we didn't see any significant queuing at all. Entering or exiting the driveway, everything was, part of what we're saying in the top one is that queues don't clear within one cycle. So the light's green for the southbound approach and people can't get through, and then the queue builds longer and longer. In the afternoon, what we saw is everybody clears during that cycle. There may be some cars, 6, 7 cars on those approaches, but they all are able to traverse the intersection during that cycle period.
And I'm not like, are the current signals, I know we've talked about changing the signaling so that it's based on volume and like actual usage, not based on like a set time, and increasing time so that it allows the queuing on Mansfield in the morning. It alleviates that sort of pressure. Is the same time queuing of the signals in the afternoon is the same as it is in the morning? Currently.
Yes, the signal is currently timed the same for the majority of the day.
And do we see any need to amend or modify the signaling in the afternoon, or we think the way it is now is sufficient?
So we are proposing differences in the morning and the afternoon with that last table that I showed.
I don't think.
So the top line is existing AM and PM. We're proposing an AM set of times and a PM set of times.
And by PM, do you mean 3:30, 3 o'clock, like? What are we
From
talking
3 to 4 p.m. And then when we actually do this timing, we look at the.
Cars start queuing up at Oxbridge, I have to tell you, much earlier.
So for the timing, we're going to look at. We obviously have the peak hour, which is
Right,
almost.
pick up, if you're picking up, right, buses, dismissals at 3. And that's when kids.
Dismissals at 3:30.
Right, but that's when the kids, but pickup begins and the queuing begins significantly earlier.
Right. So we counted from 3 to 4 p.m. And so what we'll also do, so we have the analyses that tell us what this peak hour volume is, but we also have a tube counter on the road that tells the hourly volumes. So we'll know, and we're going to set these based on these times, when the volume starts picking up in the afternoon, when that breaking point is, when we go from the AM to the PM timing. So we'll look at those trends and we'll set timing that makes sense for the
We
rest.
don't think afternoon is a problem, we think it's really more morning.
Comparative to the morning, the PM works well.
On Mansfield, okay, and then we'll get into the circulation inside the property later.
Right. And can I just jump in, because you mentioned something during this recent Q&A, that if the sensors reach their, I might have heard this differently, so I'm not sure. I think you said if the sensors reach their maximums, then the timing is just going to be the same as it is now?
It'll approach the times that exist today, but what we're going to do is we're going to set these numbers that you're seeing here are the maximums that we're going to set. So, side street will get a maximum of 21 seconds or 27 seconds. So when I was saying it was like it is today, it will be kind of a set time. There'll be so much volume that it will call the entirety of that phase. I hope that answers the question.
So the table that you have on the screen now, this is what it's going to be normal, or this is going to be the maximum if the sensors are all tripped?
It differs for each phase, but essentially, this first phase will always be at least 11 seconds. That's the timing. Phase 2, which is the main phase, so it's kind of the phase that it defaults to, will take all of the remaining time that isn't called by phase 4. So say there's 4 cars on the side street, on the driveway, and we set it to say it could be a maximum of 21, it has to be a minimum of 10, just to give an example. And each car calls an extra second, so it would be 14 seconds, as opposed to 21. The remainder of that time would go to the main.
Before Sean can just chime in after Mike, I want to real quick.
Maybe we should ask the question this way. What defines whether it's phase 2, or phase 4?
That's just the way the cycle works. It's pretty common that when you have a single lane road, you have an advance for one direction so that they can make left turns. You have a main line, that's your main traffic, your highest volumes northbound and southbound is usually phase 2, and then there's up to 8 phases, how many intersections there are, and all that stuff.
Wait, so the phases are actually location driven more than timing?
The phases are controlling a movement.
In a location.
In a location. So if you have like the intersection with turn lanes and everything else, you'll have up to 8 phases or 9. But this one is pretty simple. It's just the 3.
Are we ready to have Michael Galante jump in?
Can I interrupt? It's my thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we might be ready for Michael Galante to jump in.
Can I just have one more clarifying question, just because I think it wasn't clear to me? Or will this plan incorporate allowing right on red, or is right on red dead on arrival because of the site issues?
It is dead on arrival. In my opinion, it's dead on arrival. It's
That's
the
what I thought I heard you say, but I also thought I heard at one point that maybe there was going to be allowing for right-hand turn lane, but no right on red, correct?
That's correct. The sight lines from both side streets are very limited, and we would not recommend that in any way.
No,
I thought that was a state law.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just wanted to make sure that I heard everything you said correctly.
Michael Galante, welcome. Please.
Mike Galante. Craig's done a very good job of describing all the details of the traffic report and the analyses. And I'm not going to repeat all of those numbers, but just want to touch on a couple of things. One, we obviously reviewed the entire document.
Hey, Michael, can I interrupt? Michael, can I interrupt 1 second? Do you have a camera? We just see MJ. We don't have to look at you if we don't want us to, but do you have a camera that's on or off?
I think you guys saw me before.
We don't see your face right now.
How's that? You see me now?
Nope.
No.
It's all right. Do you have a tie on? There you are. There he is. All right.
Okay, I'll go back again. Mike Galante, Frederick Clark Associates, now known as Hardesty in Hanover, because we merged with another firm about a year ago, but it's still us guys working for the town. And you're correct, we work for Planning and Zoning Commission in this case. Craig works for the Building Committee and I guess in the school district. We reviewed all of the details in the traffic report, everything from traffic volumes, accident analysis, school generation, how it was derived, the parking analysis, the capacity analyses, which we're discussing now, and I think very important, the mitigation plan. And I think it's important to understand the mitigation plan is modify the traffic signal and how it operates. One, there is no right-of-way or room to add a turn lane, which is one of the first things I looked at when I got involved. I looked at, can you add a second exit lane, if you will, on the driveway coming out of the school? There is no right-of-way, it's somebody else's property. Obviously, we look at, can you add a left turn lane on Mansfield coming northbound to turn into the school? There is no right-of-way to do that. So the approach was to look at the traffic signal operation, which is in many respects outdated, I guess is a nice way of putting it. And what is proposed is to modify how that traffic signal operates. And it was done correctly. And it's important to note that the traffic signal timing plan that's referred to really detects the volume on the road all day long, all during the peak hours. So the morning operation and timing and phasing may not be the same at dismissal at the end of the day. You may have more green time at the dismissal when cars are coming out of the school. But it was also a balancing act as far as how that intersection operates with the traffic signal, with the exact same roadway configuration and the internal operations within the school, which is very, very important in this case. One, the school operation is separating and maintaining a bus loop and a parent loop, which is in any new school, that's what you do. And the other concern I had, which was addressed, was the separation from the traffic signal operations and that driveway into the campus and the operations where the school buses go, where parents go. And I know part of the plan is to have staff out at the curbside to help children, students out of the car in the morning, and I'm sure to be staff near the school buses on the other bus loop. So it all works together. But I think it's important, the traffic signal operation really works with the volume. The volume is determining what the timing of that traffic signal is during those key times. The analysis is based on the highest volumes at the school. The second row or second level of cars coming in for the other program is at 9:30. There was a lot of discussion about separating that activity with the first activity, and the same thing with dismissal. There is no overlap, and it's much a more greater separation of the two. But in the right turn on red, you can't have a right turn on red in this case because you really can't see coming out of the school driveway. And that's for a safety reason that you have a no turn on red. And that can't change even with a modified traffic signal operation. I'm not going to go into any other details and maybe just answer questions if you want at this point.
I'll hold on. Thank you, Michael, I appreciate that. Michael's probably reviewed almost every single traffic plan that I think we've done in this town, except for one or two in the last 7 years that I've been on the committee. Again, Michael, do you mind, where the heck is it? I guess it's not in your letter. I thought it was in your letter.
Levels of service?
Yeah, the ABCD stuff again? I thought that was.
Yeah, I describe ABC just like in school. A is things are great, you're doing a good job. In traffic engineering, it's little or no traffic and, pretty much free flow. Average conditions for traffic is level of service C. And as you go down the scale in traffic engineering, we have E, which used to be called capacity of a road or an intersection. Level of service F used to be called failure. To be more realistic, it's appropriately worded, more congestion, longer delays. The intersection, the traffic signal today operates at an overall level of service E in the morning, which you have commuter traffic and school traffic pretty much overlapping at the same time. The recommendation is to change the timing plan with the new timing and I call it a detector in the driveway. It detects traffic coming in and coming out of the driveway. With the modifications that Craig has recommended, the level of service overall for the intersection goes from E in the morning during a 1 hour period to level of service C. That's a significant improvement. And that tells me that we don't really need to add turn lanes at the intersection. If we had a left turn lane, for example, northbound on Route 124 turning into the driveway, when that left turn advance was going as a green arrow, and if you had an extra lane on the driveway, for example, the right turn movement could basically concur with the northbound left turn into the school itself. They can operate together. That's not an option here because we have no room to build extra lanes anywhere. But the results of the analysis and changing the timing, which may sound very simple, but it does the trick in this case to address the traffic volume, which is commuter traffic and school traffic during the morning, and just really dismissal traffic in the afternoon or mid-afternoon before the commuter traffic occurs later on. So in the afternoon, it's a level service C today. That's an overall answer, if you will, overall how the intersection operates. It improves to a level service B with the improvements to the traffic signal. Keep in mind, and I know one commissioner mentioned this, operations and delays on Mansfield southbound today in the morning is level service F. They're long delays, and that's what the analysis shows, and that's what you see out in the field. With the modifications to the traffic signal, that F level service goes up to its level service D. So the modifications to the traffic signal are, in this case, significant. And these changes can be made because this traffic signal is pretty much a standalone traffic signal. It's not near any other traffic signal in the corridor. So it doesn't affect, another signal that would need to be modified to work in conjunction with this one. Does that help with the levels of service?
I think it does. Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Is there, I'm just looking at the last couple of paragraphs of your report, and is there like a caveat in there that you need like teachers to help kids get on the bus or get in their cars, that kind of stuff that's typical at a school?
Well, I've done over 200 schools, and I hate to say it, but it's a 20-minute problem in the morning and 20-minute problem in the afternoon, which is a little sarcastic, but I don't have a problem with some traffic delay at a school. I really like to see it operate as safe as possible.
Right.
So if there's a little bit longer delay coming out of a school at 3 o'clock or 3:30 in the afternoon, I'd rather see that as opposed to a higher speed for someone rushing out of a driveway. So we traffic engineers try to balance that as far as overall safety with any project, but certainly with a school, and overall safety and operations and minimizing delays. So that's what we try to balance in a case like this.
Okay. Then I think another question that popped up, and if you could confirm it, for argument's sake, 4 years from now, if we think the traffic timing has to get done, the purpose that changes the timing, I would go to Jeremy on this.
Mike, if I recall, it would be the local traffic authority
That's correct.
Working together with DOT to say, hey, something's not right, something's wrong. Can you give us the authority to tweak it a little bit? And the local traffic authority, which in Darien is the police department, would be able to work on that if it was noted that something's not right.
Yeah, that's very true. But also keep in mind with setting up of the traffic signal, there's a range of minimum green, for example, and a maximum green. So as volumes change at the intersection, the traffic signal and its operation will change itself. So you're not necessarily running out there every year to modify the traffic signal timing. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
That's why you have a detector in the driveway.
That's the thing on the road where you go through it, you drive over it, right?
That's correct. That triggers the traffic signal to change.
Thank you. Okay. This time, let's start with Kara Gately. You want to go first, Kara? For Michael?
Sure. I really appreciated your report. Actually, both traffic experts. I really appreciated both their analyses and thorough work. And I really enjoyed but appreciated, both of them having a appreciation both for there's an inherent conflict, right, between traffic and and their delay and parents and children getting out, and they're balancing of interests. And so I really appreciate that you both raised that and considered it. I did notice, Michael, in your report that you, on the last page, brought up that there was no on the initial traffic report showing of emergency vehicles and the turning templates. And I'm sure that's been covered. I'm sure maybe that's covered in circulation. But do you want to speak to that, or is that anything further that you wanted to address?
No, I can touch on that. They provided the turning templates for emergency vehicles and school buses coming in and out of the school campus from the intersection, and show that different size vehicles traveling through the campus itself, and they show that it works fine with the layout that they put.
Thank you. I appreciate that just being raised because it was in your report.
Yep.
No, I think that was it. I mean, I guess the only other thing I would raise, and I raised this kind of before, and I think both, Michael, you and Craig both kind of addressed this, and I think it is what it is, right? It's already a level F at certain times of the day. It's a D, and I mean, right, it's the Northeast, it's a highly congested area. It's a state road leading, that's access to both the Merritt and has access to 95, as it goes to the Post Road. So, I mean, we can't change any of that. And I think...
Yeah, but keep in mind, if I may, the mitigation plan for the traffic signal at the school driveway is being improved as part of this development, or the redevelopment of the school, and it's improving the levels of service, which is reducing delay. So we are eliminating the E's and the F's in the morning and bringing it up to C's and D's. So that's an improvement.
I think that's great, but are we only addressing, though, the K through 5 increase, which is a less of an increase than the ELP increase? And the ELP students, as we discussed earlier, most of them do not come by bus, where the K through 5 students, which is the larger percentage, the larger percentage of overall population, but which as a group in the new envisioned Ox Ridge is the smaller, the less significant increase population.
True,
and so the LP students, granted it's during a less intensive commuter time, will be coming via parent cars, not via buses, will be in traffic. And so have we considered a traffic study? And I understand that they will come at a time, they start at a time that hopefully is outside of the peak commuter traffic on the state road. But I can tell you, being a parent who has dropped kids off, ELP parents are already lined up at the time that I'm dropping off a K through 5 student. So it's just the realities of how,
We actually had that discussion about the second tier of students coming in the morning.
Yep.
Has to be that separation of about 30 minutes at least. And it's really up to the school administration to talk to parents as far as what time to arrive in the morning if they put a 9:30 start. If there's an overlap, then there's a problem. But the analysis that was provided by Craig and included in the report in great detail analyzes the elementary school traffic, which is much higher than the ELP traffic that starts at 9:30. No, in the future also.
The ELP population increase. I mean, what are the numbers on the ELP population increase?
Well, you have 150 students in the future that's analyzed, even though it's 135.
How many are there now?
There are 24 or so students there now.
I mean, that's a dramatic increase.
No, I agree, and I had the same comment, but the background traffic on Mansfield is lower because the commuter peak is dropping off, and then you have the second round of traffic coming into the school, which is lower than the elementary school. And if the mitigation plan works for the elementary
school students, I'm not arguing, I'm just pointing out the elementary school students, right, have a higher population that take buses, where the ELP, which is having the more significant increase, have a less percentage of population that takes buses. And I think you answered it though already by saying that's up to the administration.
Separation of stop times, yeah.
Can I interrupt with one thing? This is Craig. I think Principal Forshaw mentioned that it didn't require that buses were available for the ELP students, but some of the ELP students still will be arriving by bus.
That's correct.
So it's not that they don't exist. It's just that there's not as many.
I think Luke can speak to this. The percentage of ELP students receiving busing is significantly lower than the amount of K through 5 students who are.
That's right. It's a good conversation. And to your point about, wanting to maintain that separation between the K-5 drop-off, the ELP drop-off, that'll certainly be part of our operating in the parking lot, communicating with families. And so that'll absolutely be part of how we go forward in making this one school community without massive traffic jams.
And Luke, I can speak to, the Oxbridge community, and Luke and his staff already does a pretty stringent hands-on job of already managing that. But I just wanted to note for the record that there will be the ELP population is dramatically increasing. And those will be the majority of them will be parent-driven and parent-picked up.
Keep in mind that if there's an issue out there, I'm sure Craig and I will be getting phone calls.
No, but I think the answer is right. I think it's everyone being aware of it, and it has to be managed. Both parents have to be responsible and follow the rules, and administration has to enforce it. And I know there's really strong communication already, but I just wanted to note that, because it's a pretty significant change.
No, you're making a good point. We all have to pay attention to it. I definitely agree. I'm sure everyone here tonight agrees to that. It has to be addressed.
You good, Kara? Kara just muted. She said yes. Next up, George Riley.
Thank you. A couple of things, and so Michael, you indicated you had a very clear view about whether or not there was room for a left turn lane on Mansfield, and I just wanted to drill down on that a little bit. Are you confirming what Ty and Bond came up with, or were measurements made, or is there something obvious about it, like the grade of the Keewaydin Drive, the private drive? What's behind that?
There is some obvious issues out there as far as where fences are and along the side of the road and so on. But the traffic signal plan that Craig showed shows the right-of-way information on it, and that's the real information.
It shows the existing right-of-way, you mean?
Yes.
Well, all right, so I'm just wondering, for fences, how much more width do you need?
Well, a lane, just roughly speaking, a lane is 12 feet wide or 11 feet wide, so you need that. But as you widen out, sometimes they add shoulders and so on, and it starts eating up, the available right-of-way on a road or a roadway section. You need room for utilities along the side of the road, so a new curb line or an edge of pavement can't go up to the property line. So you have to leave room, typically 8 feet on each side of the road. So it's very tight there to even consider an additional lane. Same thing with the driveway. It's pretty tight.
Okay, yeah, no, the driveway, well, I get, but, okay. But just it seems to me on the right of Mansfield, there might be some give there, but you don't think there's enough, apparently.
I'll certainly check it again before next week's meeting.
Don't spend a lot of time on it. I'm getting your
reaction. But I can double check.
Okay. And, This is our once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I suspect, if there was a way to do it. So, other than that, I did want to ask, and I probably should have put this to Craig, but whomever wants to do it. Events like Parents' Night and events during the day, is there flexibility with this signaling system that we can, implement other than during the assigned hours that we've seen in the report?
Sometimes you see a policeman out there standing next to the controller with a wire going in, changing the timing. That's one option. We don't see that as much as we used to in the past. I think you have to look at the event and see if you need police control. I'm not trying to get the police out there and working on a parent night event, but as far as
I'm sure they're there.
Yeah, sure. But as far as changing the traffic signal for an event, it's doable, but I don't think you need to do that with the timing plan that Craig is suggesting. People will have to wait a little bit longer if it's an event where parents are all leaving at 9 p.m. at night. They'll just have to wait a little bit. But don't forget the volume traffic on Mansfield is much lower at 9 o'clock at night at the end of the parent night. So there's a balance.
We do have a budget for police and fire services, and we do use them for those large scale events to assist in that part of it.
Fair enough. Okay, thanks.
Larry Warble. Larry Warble. Any questions, sir? There he is.
Fascinating, but I don't have any questions.
Thank you, sir. Back up to Jennifer Leahy.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. The only thing that I have left to, I think, Michael and or Craig is in Michael's letter dated April 20th. The plans do not indicate stop signs and bars and one way and all that stuff.
Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. That's a caveat, or is that required in the plans? Are somebody adding that to the plans?
It's actually on the plans, and we reviewed it, and I discussed it with SLAM this morning. They have stop signs and do an enter signs on their plan. I'm just going to suggest a few more signs, such as one way or do an enter signs, to make sure that no one goes the wrong way on a parent or a bus loop, things like that. So we'll provide that information probably by the end of this week, so it's in their hands, so they can take a look at it, and we can chat about it next week if we need to.
Okay, that'd be great. So someone incorporates...
Not a significant change, we're just trying to clarify a couple signs.
Perfect. So someone can incorporate that into whatever plan it's going to be on, and we can reference it in the approval, that'd be great, or the resolution, that'd be great.
Yes.
That's it for me. Am I missing anything, Jared?
That's it for me.
All right, that's it. Thank you, Michael and Craig. Michael, you have to hang on, I think, because I think you're going to speak after we talk to Luke, who's presenting the parking plan, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so the next up we have site circulation and parking with Jessica Petro and Luke Forshore from Darien Schools. Luke, we've never met, but I think you're the principal of the school. Luke also submitted to the architect's signature memo dating about how many classrooms and how many students and whatnot. So if you two guys could take it away, it's the floor is yours.
Good evening. We haven't met before, but that's right. I'm the principal of Oxbridge, and thank you all for staying up late with us to keep working on the building. Much appreciated. I do have a camera. It's not on. I have a sleeping toddler in the house, so I'm just on a headset. So apologies for that.
Perfect.
My comments are brief, and then I'll let the professionals dive into the detail. I'm here for questions, but effectively, we're really happy with a significant improvement to our parking situation. Michael and Craig, it was good to hear us go from an F rating to a C, and so I'm experiencing like that kind of increase in quality as we work with the team to improve the circulation, the parking, the safety. Oxbridge, we've done the best we can do with the current flow and the parking situation, and I think you'll see the upgrades are just that, upgrades. I'm here to answer questions as Jessica present.
So before Jessica speaks, if you can make me the presenter, this is Amy. I'll share the screen that Jessica's going to refer to.
You guys are doing a great job.
setting. Oops. Oh, I think it's blacked. Jessica, you can go ahead and I'll make it larger on the screen in a second as you go.
Okay, great, thank you so much. We're going to talk a quick slide, a little bit about vegetation and vegetative borders being the buffer for the planting of the parking, and then follow up with the site circulation. So on the screen you're seeing in green the parking lot buffer setback as per your regulatory review. It notes the 25-foot setback, and as well as around the parcel, we've identified a lot of existing vegetation to preserve and protect. We have in our specifications and then during construction administration an arborist on call that looks at the trees to assess their health, to make sure there's no safety concerns with like limb removal and just the general quality, so that during construction they're protected and maintained, because this existing canopy cover is really beautiful and one that we've worked very hard with our grading study to preserve as a buffer. You can go to the next slide, Amy.
Sure.
Thanks.
Too far.
It's okay. So one thing we absolutely loved when we came to the site for the school, you'll see the image on the left-hand side, which shows the red maple and a description and identification. The school's done a really great job of identifying existing trees within their site to use as an educational component. So reviewing that and the survey and site analysis, we've incorporated that and expanded upon it when we looked at the addition to spring planting and planting within the site. So we look to use native plants and then having that teaching component for the school. So these are just some images representing some of the plants that we've shown within the planning and zoning documentation for trees, deciduous and evergreen. If you go to the next slide, the good and beautiful edge conditions that you have to the site has a higher canopy established. So you might have an oak or a sycamore that has a very large canopy, but that we're looking to preserve. But we also were looking at how can we incorporate some additional screen planting within these edges of the site to work within that buffer for the parking, but also just to reestablish that edge to the adjacent parcels. So we look into doing this, it's called understory of flowering trees. So the top two images are photos of Cercis canadensis, or redbud, which is the pink, or Cornus florida, which is dogwood, which is the white. And those are native flowering understory trees. So it's like a layering approach to planting that will reestablish that edge condition. So the images in the bottom are all native understory flowering trees that are also representative of some of the plants that we've shown within the planting documentation. And then the last image that talks about plants is just looking into shrubs that we're proposing that are native shrubs. So once they are established, they wouldn't need irrigation. They support local wildlife, butterflies, birds, but then they also have a seasonal and educational component for the school also. So those are the main components that and approach philosophy that we have been taking for the landscaping on the site. And then we can move into site circulation if that's okay, if nobody has any questions regarding planting.
Yeah, keep going, you're doing good.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll jump into the site circulation, internal circulation. So Our site is showing now that we have a proposed parking count of 140 parking spaces. 135 standard parking spaces, and then 5 accessible, 4 of which are standard accessible, and 1 is being a van accessible parking space. In total need from the school from a programming standpoint is 136, and that's 15 of those parking spaces would be for visitors. So essentially the site plans shows 2 zones of parking where we've been calling an upper and lower parking zone. The upper parking zone is your first parking lot that you see as you come into the site and has circulation denoted in purple. That's showing parent and visitor drop-off, pickup, and ELP parking. And then the second parking lot is a lower parking lot, which is our bus loop with the yellow dash line and internal parking for faculty, administration, and other staff. So the next 2 slides are going to break out an enlargement of each of these parking areas. So the first one will be the upper parking lot, which shows parent circulation. So we have the same entrance as we're talking about access drive into the upper parking lot here. And we have some arrows in white, which shows the circulation patterns. Currently, we're showing 14 cars that can stack, highlighted in the purple dashed bar, that can stack as a parent drop-off opportunity, and it has a full pedestrian sidewalk adjacent to that pull-off opportunity. There is a continual drive aisle that's adjacent to that. And then you've got 60 parking spaces within this upper parking lot that will be for visitor and ELP. Luke, if you ever want to jump in, you can. But from the existing conditions now with the school, they have an opportunity for 4 cars to load and unload for parent drop-off. And this opportunity now is showing that we have 14, depending on the programming with the school and administration and aiding those children to get to the main entrance.
Yeah, just a few highlights here. One is that, as you mentioned, Jess, we do have the capacity now to unload and load students at a higher volume than we currently have. 4 versus potentially 6, I think, would be a safe estimate. And we'll see how that rolls as we move into the new building, but certainly I think 6 would be a good place to target initially for loading and unloading students. The other feature that I don't know if you'll speak to in a moment, Jess, but just to highlight for you all in terms of safety is the existing parking lot where we have, we painted these 4 spaces a few years back, is adjacent to in-use parking. So we have to have a person out there, either our assistant principal, myself, or a campus monitor, literally directing the flow of cars in and out of here because we have in-use parking spaces. This new model has a embankment which separates that loop from parking, which is a big safety win to point out as well.
Great. Thank you for making that point. The other item that's great to showcase on this is that we have an internal sidewalk within this parking lot, which then carries, thank you, Amy, carries the flow of pedestrian traffic across that crosswalk and then safely into the circulation to the main entrance of the school also. We can move on to the bus loop. So this is the lower bus loop area. This shows how 9 buses can safely stack along the dedicated bus zone. So you have 1 through 7 on one zone and the 8 and 9 on the other. I should just note we had some questions before regarding the grading. The grading of the bus zones 1 through 7 is lower than the 5% by probably 2 to 3% grade. The bus load zone for 8 and 9 is still under ADA, but it's a little bit steeper. It's still under the 5% though, but I just wanted to clarify that. As well as the connection, Amy, if you could put the cursor over how, yes, exactly right there, that curvilinear walk, which would then link the circulation of the bus loop up to the main entrance, is also under 5%, so it's an ADA circulation. But the dedicated parking spaces within here is for your faculty, so they'll be able to access this parking lot and be inside the school before the buses and bus circulation would then start.
Before the buses even show up.
So if I think Luke had noted before, but currently they have a staggered or waved approach for bus circulation where they have 3 waves of 4 buses loading and unloading. And now this shows the opportunity for more. Also, we're kind of close to where Amy's cursor is. It shows enlarged our screened service yard and gates, which close off that area. And so if there's any additional questions, that shows a better enlargement of that area and how it's separated. I guess the one other note would be from the pedestrian circulation, you can see the sidewalks that are within this parking, which then allow a dedicated, or I should say a line, not dedicated, lined crosswalks for circulation for pedestrian into the assembly wing. And the last point was where bus 1 and 2 was where we had discussed previously could be noted for special education buses for loading and unloading within that area. And I guess if no one has any questions about this right now, I can just go to the last slide, which we looked at event parking opportunities. This analysis was just based on linear feet of curving, which would not disturb the fire lane. So the fire lane and fire circulation or outrigger locations are shown as that red bar. The purple is showing opportunity along the curved edge where you could have additional parking, and this is under the assumption of having policed and monitored directing traffic and safety for those special events that the school has a couple times a year. But this graphic shows the opportunity of its 64 additional parking spaces, which could bring that count up over the 200 to 204. The main points, if anyone has any questions.
That's great. Jessica, I appreciate that. I would like Michael Calante to go next. And if the commissioners don't mind, we have commissioner questions from Michael and Jessica at the same time. I take it you reviewed this, Michael, pretty extensively?
Yes, I did. And we agree with all the numbers that Jessica pointed out as far as the need as outlined by the school district, 121 spaces, 15 spaces for visitors during the day, with a total of 136 spaces overall needed on the campus. They provide 40 spaces. Originally it was a lower number. They increased the parking count, which addresses that concern. We looked a little bit further because we didn't go out and do actual counts, since schools have been closed, to see what it is under existing conditions. But the ITE standards, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, traffic engineers, do a lot of research and counts at schools and other different types of land uses, and we use that data to look at, well, what would the parking need be or parking demand need to be for an elementary school such as this. Based on the enrollment of 578 students, total number of students, you would need, according to ITE, 116 spaces. And that's not average. That's the higher number, is really like 96 spaces on average. So I feel pretty comfortable that if we're at a number of 116 for a typical school like this, and they're providing 140, and let's leave out the event parking for a moment, but I feel comfortable with that. We can meet the needs of the school on a busy daily condition, if you will. The information on the event parking, which increases it by another 64 spaces, or if you will, in the loops, is significant on parent night, for example, or graduation, whatever it might be. I mean, I assume we'll have graduations again at schools, hopefully in the future. But I'm comfortable with the numbers that they provided and the information they provided as far as on-campus parking.
Thank you. So your second, what you just talked about now is really your second letter dated May 7th, right?
May 4th.
I've got April 20th and May 7th. Are you correct?
No, I think there was an issue, Mike, with the date on the letter. It's read the heading on that, parking evaluation.
Correct. Parking evaluation.
Oh, okay.
We changed the date for you, bud.
Okay.
So you're good for now. We're going to go Q&A if you don't mind. Let's start with Jennifer Leahy. Jennifer's here. There you go. Good, Jen. Any questions for Michael or Jessica or Luke?
I don't think so. I think I'm okay.
Fantastic, thank you. Next with Larry Warble.
There we go. Yeah, I think the only question I'd ask is, in evaluating the parking need, how much work did you do with current usage? For example, I know when my kids were at Ox Ridge, there were events, we talked about this the last time, where, you ended up using the fields for parking spots, just because you could and there was nowhere else. And instead of looking at a national survey that says, this is the typical need for an elementary school, how much did you look at, what's actually the current usage of the school and how this plan compares to that?
Again, Mike Galante, I'll answer that first. As you know, the school's been closed for 6-8 weeks. We weren't able to go back out and do any extra counts.
Yeah, no, what I'm talking about more is talking with the faculty. Did you find out how many cars are there on parent night? Did you find out how many cars are there when there's, the school band concert at lunchtime?
No, we really just focus on a typical school day.
Luke, you want to comment on that yet at this point?
Sure. Yeah, it's a good observation. There are plenty of events that do require what we now have as overflow parking. In working with the architects and the building committee, we've looked at the total increase to parking as a nice buffer for those larger events. Things like you mentioned, open house and concerts and the back to school picnic. And then, as Jessica's pointed out already, some considerations already been given to the total number of those quote unquote overflow spots. And know that for those event parking, we do have the police on site, and they're great expert at helping us get the cars in safely. So all of that's been, under advisement as this has been designed.
But Luke, do you know how many cars use the parking lot currently when you have one of those events?
We don't have an average use, but we were talking in another meeting regarding safety and security with police representation at that time, who had estimated about 40, from their estimates of running those events, about 40 cars that they park on the ball field in the front. And so taking that as a running number and looking at the overflow opportunity here, the total number of spaces that have been added, gave me peace of mind. Hearing from the police that's typically the number that they remind, they recall parking on those fields and with more space and overflow.
So about 40 on the fields, and how many overflow are there now? 65, 64?
64.
Yes, and a total number increase in the parking lot proper. So the design is now much more, has more spaces, obviously, which is good.
Luke, can I ask you a question? Would you ever have back to school night with ELP and the regular school, K through 5, at the same night?
No, we have 2 sections of ELP currently on the site, and we stagger those times. So while it still might be the same date, we stagger the arrival times. We do that for ELP, and then I do a stagger for K1 and 2, 3, and so on, just to keep the flow safe.
But they're all the same night, to be clear.
It's the same night, that's right. But the start time and the end time is staggered.
Okay.
Well, that doesn't impact parking. That's still going to be parked.
Yep.
well, the way that we stagger the windows is, for example, ELP might be from 5 to 6. The next wave comes in at 6.
Unless you have multiple children.
It's true. We hire police that evening as well. And, we'll certainly be monitoring that as we have the ELP all on the same site.
I mean, that's like a standoff and like parent maybe ongoing. People are gonna have to carpool or Uber or something.
Yeah.
Like, order, so, I don't know.
At homeschool, we had first grade was like first and second, and then second and third.
And that might have to be
Yeah.
ongoing.
So that would probably be a condition that we'd probably put in there to make sure you stagger the back to school nights and major events where you can do that. Right?
Consider it.
Could make that recommendation that the school consider the following management type issues to minimize traffic and parking conflicts.
Okay. Larry Warwell, I'm still your floor. I apologize.
I mean, I think that's the only thing I wanted to drill down into, and just I mean, we're working with. I guess that's the best data we have. So, I'm good at this point.
Okay, thank you. Next up would be George Riley.
Let me touch on the fascinating topic of that service area. And I think I saw in the plans a description of a box truck, but certainly not an 18-wheeler. Is a box truck going to back into that, or can it turn around in there? I assume it's going to want the back end of the truck nuzzled up against the building, right? I don't know who that's interested.
Sorry, this is Jessica Pedro. Slam. We did analysis utilizing a 30-foot length truck that can do the turning radius to get into this area of the loading dock, and then we've also had additional conversations with the school facilities of if there was a larger truck needed, they could park within the initial area of the fire lane and then use a hand truck to be able to get into the loading area, because we have an adjacent ramp within this loading area to be able, where Amy's putting the cursor, be able to get into the building at that area.
I see. Okay. So, do you expect the 30 or whatever, the 30-foot truck can back into the service area up against the school building?
Correct. Yep. And we have turning analysis that has been incorporated in the documentation to show that.
Good. Okay. That's all for me. Thanks.
Great.
Thank you, George. Next up, Kara Gately.
Most of my questions and concerns have been answered already, and I appreciate this was a really, really, really thorough and thoughtful presentation. I really appreciate it. I guess my initial question is, how did we go from 60 spots to 80? Did we just reduce some of the trees and like expand it, or in that upper lot? Or is that the lower lot? It's the lower lot.
Within the bus loop, we've looked at the circulation to before you were turning in a little bit earlier from where that cursor is into the parking lot, and by allowing the cars to turn the corner and then come into the parking area, we were enabled to expand.
Cars are down here. That's the bus loop, not the car loop.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You were talking about this is the bus loop.
I think Kara's question was
on. They can turn into the initial start of the bus loop, whereas before we were looking at previous studies that they would turn into a parking lot before you would turn the corner where the bus loop would start. So by reconfiguring the entrance into their parking, it allowed us to get more parking spaces into the site down there.
Does that make any, there's no safety concerns or like liability issues with doing that?
No, that area has just two additional bus loading within there. You know, the main area is within the 1 to 7 along the front area of the assembly.
This is there too, right?
So it enabled us to get the additional parking spaces to meet the need for the school.
Okay, thank you. That was one of my questions. And then I noticed, and I really appreciated you guys both pointing out that you and Dr. Forshaw, that in both lots there appears to be, internal sidewalks and additional buffering, which currently is not present. And I can see in the lower lot that in addition to the sidewalks, there's like an internal walkway.
Correct.
But that's not in the other lot, and that lot, which is going to be a faculty lot and which will be a parent lot?
Your upper lot coming into the main circulation is your parent and visitor. Your faculty lot down by the bus loop is, where the cursor is circling, is your main faculty parking.
Right, so there's a sidewalk there with the, there's the sidewalk and the dedicated sidewalk walkway. And
correct.
I appreciate there's an additional cut, right, for ELP buses. And then the parking lot that's the parent parking lot with the parent loop, is that a sidewalk there?
Correct. Yep, that's a sidewalk
But there's no similar, you see how in the faculty lot, there's a dedicated, there's the sidewalk and then a walkway. And the parent, there's right there. Perfect. Thank you. That answers my question.
Yep. Yeah,
That's
so
awesome. I think that's huge, honestly. And I think, can you speak to that? That's huge.
I have a big smile. I agree. All these massive upgrades.
I mean, that's huge. Huge. It's been a lot.
Anything else, Kara?
Yeah, I mean, parking and traffic and circulation was one of my major concerns. And this really clarifies a lot for me, and I really appreciate the very thoughtful and thorough presentation and analysis by both traffic guys and the architects. And I think it's never going to be perfect. I know there's more impervious surfaces, but there are significant safety improvements and flow improvements here. So I think this has been a very thorough and thoughtful presentation and design. So thank you.
Great. Okay. We're going to keep moving on. Right now on our agenda, we're up to item 16, if anyone's really keeping score. Michael Galante, you're in great shape. And everybody else is. Amy, I want to give you time to wrap up now, or either you or Kemp, but I also want to make sure we have a couple minutes for public comment. I don't know if there's people from the public in the audience. I did see some other people on the building committee that's on here. But Amy, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask for public comment at this point. If anyone is watching on TV or on this GoToMeeting and wants to, you can always submit a letter, an email, text message to any commissioner. They're preferred to go email to Jeremy. Right?
Jay Ginsburg at DarienCT.gov, or you can always call the office and we can mail a letter, drop it in town hall, in the foyer by the gym, and there's an opportunity to speak as well next week.
Great. We're going to open up the public comment now, and then when we have another meeting, which is it's a week from today, it's 17th?
March 19th, 8 p.m., we'll get the GoToMeeting out on the website this Friday.
Great.
So
Let me
people
ask
can
this
see it.
question. All right, so it's now 10 to 11. Just to make sure we're open, does anybody in the public want to speak to this application at this point in time? And Fred, can you look around? If you can unshare the screen, Fred, we can see more people.
Right, we don't have any public comment in the chat box right now, so if there's individuals that would like to speak, you can type into the chat box or unmute yourself and indicate that you'd like to speak.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so here with me is Eva, my wife, and I am Francisco Rivero, and we live in 381 Mansfield. So our house sits back to back with the school. We are in the southeast corner of what is going to be the new building. So I just have two quick comments and a couple of questions. So the first comment is on the setbacks. So what we had was an R2, and originally was 100 feet apart, and all of a sudden they changed because of the new overlay, and now I know that the setback is reduced to 75. So now my second surprise is that we have the 75, but we're gonna have the ELP playground. From what I see in what you were showing in the slides, the playground is basically going to be right next to our. So my comment here is, please do whatever possible. One, ideally, to create a little more distance from the whatever you're gonna do there. I mean, the playground, I don't know if it's gonna be pavement around or not. But if you could put some kind of buffer, I mean, some green, trees, some bushes or something, just to create more distance and give us some privacy, please. And the second comment is on the height of the new building. I was told that it was going to be one floor from what we were going to see from this end. But one floor is subjective. So, I mean, what one floor means in terms of I mean, if you can just say it in terms of what we are gonna see from here. I mean, if I am stepping on my backyard and I see the school, I'm facing this, what is the east side of the building, right? The ELP branch. And my question to you is, including the parapet, how many feet from floor to the roof?
Amy, I'm gonna let you pick whatever teammate that you want to answer that question.
Sure.
Just so
So
you know.
I can answer it. I wonder if you can allow me to share the screen again, because I can share a photo or a rendering. Thank you.
It just for the record, this gentleman lives directly behind the existing playground and tennis courts south of Mr. Alfieri's house. I think
Understood. I
think there's a lot.
figured that out from the aerial.
I think there's a lot of hemlocks on his property right now, or the school property that blocks him.
The previous one. Yeah.
So this is probably closer to aligning with your home. And as you can see, the height of the ELP is 1 story. This is the grade at this level where the playground is and where the entrance to the side entrance to the ELP is probably about 5 feet lower than the grade where your house sits, because the site does slope, out from Mansfield down past your house. It gets a little lower as it gets to the school property, and then it gets lower still as it passes through the school. So you can see that the ELP will be at a level a couple of feet lower than your house at the base, and it's 1 story, which is 14. It's probably a 16-foot high wall. And then as the slope drops and we carve out a bit of the land here, as you can see, the existing grade is up at this location, and we carve out so that the lower level of the elementary school is daylit as it comes around the south side of the building. The height of the building at its tallest is still at that first floor level even with the ELP. And while it's a 2-story building, it drops down to gain the extra floor. So does that help answer your question?
Yeah, so you said 16 feet in what it would be, I mean, the area of the entrance, I mean, the main access to the ELP, right? Does that include the parapet?
I said 16 feet because the doors here, if you look right here, this is a 10-foot high opening. The doors are 7 feet tall, so that's what I'm pointing at. I'm not sure if you can see my pointer.
Yes.
We can. It's great.
You could? Okay, great. So the total height of the wall is about 16 feet. I'm using round numbers. I don't know how many inches, but that's my approximation.
You do have a slide in the packet that you gave us called zoning building height, and the eastern facade is detailed in there. I can't read it because I'm losing my glasses, but it's in there, so we can get the exact number if we need to.
And from what I see in the slides also, you have something on the roof. I guess it has to be the AC units, right?
That's correct.
From our angle, we're going to be seeing that as well, because then that is going to be adding to the height.
That's correct. So there's a roof screen that blocks your view of the actual mechanical unit, but that is an additional height. It's set back from the roof, the face of the building, by approximately 15 to 20 feet. It's over the corridor between the ELP classrooms.
To understand clearly, is 16 feet the big, but then it goes up to 20 if I include this additional screening that you're using to cover for the AC units, right?
The screen is not 20 feet high. I'm not sure if I understood your question, but I meant to say that the screen is 20 feet back from this front wall. So the unit is set back off of the face.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I thought for a second that it was 16 turned into 20. You added that in addition to the height. No, okay. I got it. Just hopefully, I mean, you guys use something to do this screening nicer, because if I go to the second floor of my house, what I'm going to be overlooking rather than the baseball fields, rather than watching green today, we're going to be looking into these AC machines. So hopefully, I mean, you can put something nice there to cover for that.
We'll do our best. We are surrounding the rooftop unit, but we can't cover it. But we are, the height of the screen is matches the height of the mechanical unit behind.
So is that?
So, for respect to the time, I'm not going to insist, but please, I mean, I cannot emphasize enough, I mean, how important for us is to create some distance and gain this privacy with the playground area and whatever is there. And then, I mean, you can deal with the AC and the looking of that. Then, just quickly, we are connected to the sewage system. I mean, we don't have a septic. And the sewage line passes by the perimeter of our property and down through the back of the school. So I don't know if you are considering that when you did all these calculations for the drainage and whatever, because that is the line that was built by the town.
So for that one, I'm going to have to see, is Will Walter still on the call?
Yeah, I'm here.
I will. I don't know if you heard the question from the neighbor. There's a sewer line that connects his house, and does that connect through the property of the school, or does that go around it? Or
No,
connect to it?
there's a gravity sewer main that runs in, along Mansfield Ave. And of course, our site is topographically located below the main road. So currently there's a pump station that pumps everything up via force main, up the main drive, and it connects to the main up in Mansfield Road.
Show up on
So we're gonna be replacing that force main and pumping it up to the road. There's nothing that
Maybe they didn't ask him to show.
through our site from any of the neighbors' properties.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question?
No, because what I mean is, from my understanding, the sewage line on this side passes basically in the borderline between our property and the next neighbor. Yeah, exactly where you're pointing, a little farther out, and then goes exactly through the perimeter line of the school on the back.
That
Well, I mean, just to highlight, I mean, is the sewage that system that belongs to the town? So I just wonder if that was considered when they were doing the drainage planning and whatever.
Yeah, they'll just have to.
Yeah, that's interesting because the survey and the record mapping don't show any sewage pipes coming from your property onto the school.
Right, I just looked at the Redison Mead survey that's in our packet, and it doesn't show up on there. So if somebody
Correct.
could check in on that to make sure, I mean, there may or may not be an as-built where that sewer line is, but someone in our town has to know where it is between.
I would recommend, Will, send an email to the Public Works Department or send it to me tomorrow, and we can clarify what Francisco's saying and make sure that you guys are fully informed on where all the sewer lines are in that area.
Call before you dig.
Just last, when is going to kick off the construction?
So construction's probably, well, there are two different options on the table right now that the building committee is considering. Per the plans that are in the hands of everyone right now, we're planning to do a small demolition of a portion of the existing building over the summer, so that in the fall, the construction on the new building will begin in earnest. This will probably begin in October or November, the construction of the building.
We'll take a look at it. It's a good question.
That's great.
That's dependent on, some approvals and the timing of the bid dates.
And what are going to be the construction hours?
Oh, great question. Because that's under consideration now. Typical construction sites run 7 to 3, and there's a concern that, as you noted from the traffic study that was presented earlier, that 3 to 4 is one of the peak times for Mansfield Avenue. So this will not add a significant amount of traffic at the end of the day to the exiting of the school, because the current situation is that there's a plan for the contractors to meet off-site and to be shuttled to this location. As you know, parking is tight on the site currently, and it will be constricted by construction in this area. So subcontractors and contractors will be parking off-site and shuttle to the school. So there won't add a significant amount of traffic, but ONG and AP, which is a joint venture construction management firm who plan to build this, they are looking at, in the contract to their subs, they're going to put some timing to very strictly control the time frame that people can work. I don't think they've got it completely figured out what's the best range. They're trying to maximize the best opportunity for work time and still maintain the limitations on noise ordinances for the area.
Yeah, Amy, this is Steve Mulvaney again. We also have Jeremy and the planning zoning department still checking on that, so I would keep that as an open issue. I think the building committee
It
has.
is an open issue, yes.
Yeah, I think the building committee has to put forth a, their time factors, so we can look at them. We also are pulling, other major projects that we've done in town to see what those are, because we did have concern with the ones on on Heights Road, because that's kids circulation walking down the street, but that's definitely an open issue. Does that answer your question, Francisco?
That's it. Thank you for your time. And please, the key word for us is create this buffer so we create a green distance. Is privacy. That's it. Thank you very much.
Hey, Jess,
Thank you.
is Jessica still there?
She is.
When you talked about the planting and the buffering, are you adding any more along that property line where Alfieri is and the last gentleman's house is?
Yes, we will be. Not only are we preserving the existing buffer planting within that area, but then we are looking to go back and add additional planting, as well as I'll go back and look at heights, like he had noted, and screening. There's a really nice existing evergreen buffer currently that will remain, and we won't be addressing any areas with regrading there, but we'll go back in and add some more.
That would be great. That's where the jog is, where it goes from Alfieri's house to Francisco's house.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else in the public that would like to speak to this application? Fred, can you see anybody on your end of the room?
Still nothing on the chat box.
Okay, I saw there was a gentleman on there named Nick, who I think he's on the building committee.
Nick is on the building committee.
But I don't know if he was.
That's correct. He is.
I know Nick.
Yes, sir, Mr. Betty.
Thank you, sir.
No comment, thank you.
Thank you. Gonna get you some screen time.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Amy, this is, I think, your cue to wrap it. It's now 11:10. What we'd like to do is wrap it up for tonight. We can either commissioners may or may not have any more questions, but you always get the last word. But remember, we still do have next week to go over it again. So, Amy, take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, I won't add to the presentation. I want to thank my fellow presenters and make sure that we're all available for next Tuesday to continue the hearing. That will mostly focus on the stormwater management and then respond to any questions that came up today.
Fantastic. And I think you and Jeremy may want to trade emails over the next couple of days to see any open issues that are out there.
Sure.
Okay. Commissioners, let's go around the horn before we suspend the meeting for tonight. Jennifer, any closing thoughts, questions?
I just want to make sure that we have clarity around the hours of construction. Make sure that we are all on the same page on that.
Yep. We definitely put that in Federals. We put it in Palmer's, and I'm 90% sure we put it in Corbin. And I remember we definitely did it in Tokenie Club when they did it. Anything else, Jeff?
Nope.
Thank you. Larry Warble, any final closing questions or things you want to put on the list?
None from me, thank you.
George Riley?
No, sir. Happy to move. We adjourn.
Great. Carrie Gately, anything to put on the list at the end?
No, other than, I'm sorry to be painful, I was going to say nothing, and then Jen, he actually triggered something that I was thinking of.
You have next week, remember?
Motion to adjourn.
There's nothing. In addition to the hours of construction, I think like we did also with Federal, or one of the ones that we amended due to, like, remember the students walking in the safety of demolition and like rock blasting?
Yep.
And I think we need to consider that as well. Obviously it's not for tonight, but I think ongoing, because active construction, demolitions, I know demolition will be done over the summer, but an active site with students, especially ELP students who are younger, and a high population of special needs students learning, I think we need to like really be cautious about plow trucks, construction, blasting, rock moving, all that stuff. So I don't really have an opinion about it now, but I just think at some point it needs to be, really thought about and considered. That's it.
Sure. We have site logistics plans that have been prepared by the construction management team. And so I'll find out if they're available for next week's presentation. If not, I can present their site logistics plans and walk through them, with some bullet points that they can give me.
Okay, thanks.
That would be great.
Sure.
Jeremy, we allowed to suspend this?
Yeah, we can continue the hearing to Tuesday, May 19th, 8 p.m. It'll be not only in room 119 at Town Hall, but available via GoToMeeting with the numbers and login information posted on the town website this Friday.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Thank
let's suspend. That's the end of the
Great
public
job,
hearing. We do have time for a general meeting, time permitting. We don't have any
Nothing.
time. We have nothing. Okay. Any other business? Because 2/3 majority of votes. I don't think we have 2/3. Wants to extend the meeting. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Ooh, I think George Riley gets that one, and I see Karen Gately's hand up.
To prove I was here at the end.
There you go. The motion was made by George and seconded by Karen. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Michael Galante, and meeting's ended. Thank you, Mike Galante, and